In the middle of a great city, the Ares Empire, two guards are walking amidst the crowds of people. One of them remarks on how peaceful everything is. At the same time, the other, older, being more cautious and skeptical, isn't fooled by this state of things, telling his partner the revolutionaries could strike again at any time. However, he then proceeds to disregard the danger, saying there are no revolutionaries, just some peasants fooling around, and his partner agrees. They continue their conversation by acknowledging once again that things have been really quiet lately, thinking that the so-called revolutionaries realized their rebellion was pointless, and they just stopped, or maybe they were taken care of by the Empire's knights, expressing their wish for things to remain this way. Unfortunately for them, a group of men in armor are plotting their next move in some other place that looks like a seemingly lit dungeon. They plan to kill the Emperor and bring down the Empire once and for all. One of them, who appears to be the leader, states that this is the only way to regain the kingdom, and it seems that the most important part of this rebellion falls on the shoulders of a red-haired, tall, and muscular guy, Logan McLain, to protect the sacred text at all cost. Logan says that he is aware when some other dude bursts into the room saying that Logan is for sure a patriot. He doesn't understand what he means by this, and asks the guy to explain himself. He does so by telling Logan that countless people were sacrificed to take and protect the secret text from the Empire, and that being in possession of that book makes you the #1 target of the Empire's military. And so by doing this horrendous job, he becomes a patriot. However, Logan cuts his expectations short, telling him that he didn't volunteer for that job, to which the other guy replies that his role is indeed given to him simply because of his proficiency in the ancient tongue. Still, the fact that he's doing it without complaining is also patriotic enough. Logan shouts at the guy, making him tremble in his underwear, telling him that what he's saying is an insult to his other comrades, and that his motives don't lie within patriotism, but revenge. He proceeds to tell his life story, how he was a good-for-nothing loser, always growing up in his brother's shadow. Ranyan. An image from his past appears, a fight between him and his brother, in which Ranyan emerges victorious. The crowd chatter about how it's only been 3 years since the young master has picked up a sword, while Logan has been receiving knight training for the past 10 years. This makes him the fool of the McLain family. Somewhere else, the aftermath of a disgraceful event takes place. Logan is schooled by his father for using paralysis poison on his brother, and is told that if Ranyan doesn't pull through this, the consequences will be severe. However, the patriarch doesn't finish his thought, and instead throws Logan out, telling him that for the deed he's committed, he's no longer his son. This event caused Logan to leave the family and become a mercenary, and so he says, it took him 2 years to realize how terrible of a person he was, but by that time, it was already too late. In the same city, a conversation between two women gets the attention of Logan, who travels with his identity concealed amidst the crowded town. A public execution is going to be held in the city square, and the prisoner's name is no other than Reincaneted McLain. Hearing this, Logan starts running through the city, trying to get to the square in time, wanting to speak for one last time to his brother, praying that he's still alive. However, when he gets there, what he sees makes him sick to his stomach. A guard is holding Ranyan's head up for the crowd to see. The guard shouts for everyone to hear that this is the end of a fool who dared to stand up against the Empire, while everyone is cheering for the death of Ranyan. Logan decided to take revenge on the Empire for killing his family and taking away his chance to beg for Ranyan's forgiveness. At the palace, Logan is followed by a group of armed guards as he manages to steal the secret book, but it seems that now he doesn't have a way out. He fights and manages to kill some of the guards before he gets surrounded and his surrender is demanded. Logan looks around, realizing it might be where he meets his end, and thinking that he has no other choice, pops a magic marble that explodes, killing everyone instantaneously, himself included. A manifestation of Logan's conscience is shown, and what he's thinking is depressing. Looking back on his life, he can only see all the regrets he has, and how he lived with one purpose, the need for revenge, taking comfort in the fact that he at least got to fuck those Empire bastards over. However, his biggest regret, the one he won't even escape in the afterlife, is not begging for his family's forgiveness, and so he hopes that maybe he'll meet them again after his death, and get a chance to do that. Suddenly, he wakes up in his bed with a tremendous headache, which he doesn't understand since he was dead just seconds ago. How could it hurt if he was dead? His thought is interrupted by his servant Rick, who asks him if he's alright. Logan, still unsure of his surroundings, asks Rick how he could still be alive since he died 30 years ago. Rick, scared for the well-being of his master, calls for the doctor. That's when Logan notices his family crest everywhere, and thinks that perhaps he is in a dream. However, this is not the case, as next, Ranyan enters the room and asks Logan if he's alright. So Logan recollects the memory of their first duel, and the scene when Ranyan came to visit him after he lost to him. He remembers throwing a pillow at his brother's face and putting him in his place, and being rude as always, calling him a bastard child. although he seems to handle things differently this time. As Rick tries to take Reincaneted away, Logan says that there is no need for that, and tells Reincaneted to get closer, leaving Rick in shock. Reincaneted apologizes to his brother, saying that he should have been more careful, but Logan stops him and tells him there's no need for that, going on to say that he should be the one apologizing, but he doesn't get to finish his sentence, as he bursts into tears. Reincaneted asks him if he's okay, telling him that he needs to rest. Logan starts thinking about his brother, how someone as kind as him was killed, how he fought on the front lines as ordered by the kingdom just to be butchered. Logan gets on his feet and tells Reincaneted that he is sorry while jumping to hug him. Reincaneted, a bit scared of his brother's behavior, asks him why he's crying, before starting to burst into tears as well. Next, Reincaneted leaves, but not before telling his brother that he'll come to visit again. Logan smiles and tells him to take care and rest, happy that he got to see his brother gain. After his brother leaves, Logan looks out the window, thinking that if this is not a dream, and he was indeed transported back into the past, then he needs to change everything he did wrong. However, his introspection doesn't last long, as a maid enters the room and starts apologizing to Logan, to which Logan replies by asking why is she doing that. Then Rick comes to take Mary away, taking the blame by saying that he forgot to tell her that Logan was resting there, and that he shouldn't bother him. Rick also apologizes, and that's when Logan realizes that he was such a big piece of shit, and that he also used to mistreat his servants as well. Logan proceeds to tell them that everything is alright, as she did nothing wrong, and asks Rick to bring him a pen and a piece of paper. Stunned, Rick asks what he's going to do to Mary with a pen and paper. Logan, annoyed, tells him to send Mary out and just bring him what he asked for. After he does, Logan thanks Rick and tells him that he can leave as he doesn't want to be disturbed. Rick, even more intrigued by the good way Logan is treating him, asks him if he's indeed alright and if his head isn't perhaps hurting. Logan proceeds to shout at Rick that he's fine and to get out. Rick happily obliges after hearing his master scream at him and advises him to rest. Then he proceeds to get out of the room and tell the other servants how he's just been screamed at and that he must be fine, telling everyone to get back to work. Even though annoyed, Logan acknowledges that these are the consequences of his own actions and that he must be patient. He continues by saying that the most important thing right now is to write down everything that will happen, more specifically, the war against the Empire that is about to start. 10 years from now, a disaster that will kill both his family and the nation, and preventing that from happening is his goal. However, a more imminent danger needs to be taken care of first, the war of the fiefdom that will occur a year from now. A war that will begin abruptly, and that is going to partially destroy his family, bringing it into dark times. Walking down the corridors of the castle, going to see his father, servants start bowing before Logan, and unexpectedly, one servant stumbles down, dropping the sheets she was carrying. She's trembling in fear, thinking how she could have fallen, from all people, right in front of the young master, thinking she is going to suffer greatly for her carelessness. Logan offers his hand and asks if she's okay. The servant, shocked and happy that she isn't getting her ass beat for what just happened, takes Logan's hand, but not before noticing the awkward grin on his face. Bro genuinely looks like a psychotic killer. Seeing this, she gets back on her knees and starts begging for forgiveness. Logan, stunned, asks her what's wrong, and realizes that changing his behavior overnight is strange, and that they may need time to adjust, concluding that he needs to take his time and actually show them that he's not the same sociopath madman he was before. After all, it can't just be because of his killer-looking smile. As he reaches his father's study, his presence is announced by Rick. Before entering the chambers, he remembers the events of that day again, the day when his father threw him out and told him that he's no longer his child. He remembers how in his previous life, he resented his father for years after being kicked out, for being a cold-hearted figure who gave up every expectation of his son and didn't even think to visit him after he collapsed in an official duel, of how cruel he was and how he heartlessly cast away his child. He then continues to acknowledge how stupid he was for thinking all of those things, and thinks how heartbroken a parent must be for them to kick out their own child. He simply greets his father, stating his presence respectably. Seeing his father, he starts trembling, thinking about how he wants to tell him he's sorry. However, he snaps out of it quickly, as his father, the patriarch of the House McLain, Patrick McLain, doesn't show to be in any way moved by his presence. After all, even though it's been 20 years for Logan, Patrick got to see his face every day. Logan continues to state his business, saying that he's there to ask for his father's permission to go into isolated training on the family plot, to which his father remains a little shocked. It appears that this is Logan's plan to win the regional war, to strengthen the whole territory forces, the forces of the knights and the soldiers, to reinforce as well as develop new weapons, and several other methods. For all of this to work out, he needs money. But there is one problem. The McLain clan is notorious in the kingdom as being the bigger family. However, Logan thinks there is a way to earn a lot of money at once, an incident set to happen in 3 months from now that could bring him a whole year's worth of the family's budget at once. But for that, he needs to build strength and have a voice at the court. His father, knowing the kind of man he is, asks if he wants to run away because he lost the duel to Ranyan. Logan replies by saying that he's not running away at all, but that he's realized how lacking he's been this entire time. So even if it's late, he wants to try and get his act together. His father, still not convinced, tells him that his lack of effort is not the only reason for his situation, and that even after all this time, he still hasn't come to his senses. Logan realizes he's not getting his father's trust so easily, so he continues by acknowledging that he also realized that his behavior has also been a problem. His father, tired of hearing the same thing over and over again, tells Logan to leave. However, Logan starts crying like a baby and says that all this time he has been putting the blame on others instead of acknowledging his own shortcomings, being foolish and immature, and says that through this training, he wants to get that immaturity under control, and once again begs his father to allow him to go into training. After Logan's speech, his father acknowledges that everything he said this time sounds genuine and not like a lame excuse, and asks Logan for how long he's going to be training. He replies that his set time is around 3 months, and his father asks if he thinks this is enough time to catch up to Ranyan. This is not Logan's goal, but he simply chose a short amount of time to do his best. With a slight smile on his face, his father sees the change that occurred in Logan's behavior and allows him to go into training. Logan thanks and tries to leave the room, but his father stops him and tells him to keep in mind that it's still spring, so the family burial grounds can get too cold for sleeping, so he should take care to stay warm. Logan thanks him and leaves for his training. A few days later, Logan is on the training grounds, where only immediate McLain family members are allowed, so no one will come to disturb him. And besides that, the large area it constitutes makes it perfect for solitary training. It seems that the training method he plans to use is secret, and no one can know about it just yet. The Divine Sword Secrets. In his previous life, Logan memorized the entire book and then burned it, so the Empire wouldn't get his hands on it. A magnificent book with a golden hawk on its cover, being burdened with the sacred passed down by the hero of ancient times, who slayed the evil dragon that used to rule this world. He transcribed the book using the Independent Army's secret code, so that no one else except him could read it. If what they wrote in the Book of Secrets was true, then after mastering the power of the Divine Sword, not even Empire Aura Masters, or even Archmages would be scary anymore. He continues by saying that before he regressed, because of his age and talent, it was too late for him to learn all of this, but now he has a chance. The basis of this power is modifying the body itself using life force. Then he must focus this force on the heart to create a so-called core. He says that this is a hard task for an average talent, and that in his past life, his body would have already broken down by that stage. But just as he thought, after regressing, his force appears to have evolved in all aspects, and so, after 3 days and nights of hard work, he is stunned to see that the core is already being made. It seems that while the core is being crafted, tremendous amounts of dense energy are bursting forth as if his whole body is soaking in rain after a long drought. He proceeds to take out his sword as if the contents of the secret book are correct. His constitution and senses have taken a complete turn, and everything changed in a way that's suitable for wielding the sword. He says that even though he doesn't understand how the core of the force has been crafted so quickly, it means that at this rate, after 3 months, he can get even stronger, and so he goes back to his training. Until the last day of his training, it appears that Logan has learned only one of the 10 sword techniques recorded in the Book of Secrets, the sword that cuts through time and space, a technique called time-space slash. And with the single core he has in his possession, which is a 1-star core, this is the only technique he can use, so he swears to succeed at it at all costs. A slashing wave goes down. Logan is sweating like a horse, but he did it. He managed to learn and use his technique to its full potential and cut a big tree in half, and he is very proud of it. Logan says that this power is way beyond his imagination, and that isn't a technique that a newbie force user could pull off, and even though he is worn out after just one strike, it's going to be a good card to have up his sleeve. He's happy that he's accomplished the goals for his training, and that he'll be able to proudly report the results to his father. But before doing all that, he must take a shower because he stinks like a pig that shat himself twice. Back at the castle, as he tries to enter his father's study, a guard stops him, telling him that the patriarch cannot see him at the moment, and kindly asks Logan to leave. Logan, concerned for his father's well-being, asks if he's fine, to which the guard replies that the family law states that even direct blood relatives cannot see the patriarch without prior notice, mockingly asking Logan if he forgot about that rule. Rick, scared like a rat, with a trembling voice, tells his master that those rules are a few hundred years old. Logan replies to the guard that he had seen his father 3 months ago without any problem, to which the guard replies that in this case, the guard in charge at the time hasn't done his job properly. Logan thinks this is strange, and how this never happened in his past life. Thanks to his training, he overhears the conversation of 2 guards talking on a balcony, calling him a coward for running away after he lost to his little brother, and saying that the knight knows he can't let out a squeak, and even if anything goes wrong, the guard will easily manage it himself. Logan realizes his reputation has hit rock bottom while he was gone training, so much so that even the family's knights take him for a fool. The guard tells Logan that next time should give prior notice before coming. Logan is disrespected and thinks that the situation is troublesome because he wants to show everyone that he has changed and to continue this change gradually. He asks the guard what his name is while taking something out of his inner breast pocket. The guard, thinking about what he's reaching for, replies that his name is Dominan. Logan continues by restating the events that just happened, how Dominan stopped him from seeing his father by invoking an old family rule that is dead, and how he humiliated him with a consistently insolent attitude. The guard is shocked by what Logan is saying and thinks about the sudden change in his character. Logan then proceeds to challenge Dominant to a duel by throwing a glove at his face. Everyone is looking down on the scene amazed, while Logan is taunting Dominan, telling him that he couldn't believe that he would have his tail between his legs against a rumored coward, and how he must be all past his prime, and Rick is just standing behind Logan shitting his pants. Annoyed, Dominan picks up the glove that Logan threw at his face and accepts the duel. Next, Dominan and Logan are staring at each other, ready to face off in the Knights' training pits. 2 guards are talking about what's about to happen, not believing that Logan is going against a knight when it's just been 3 months since he lost to his younger brother, and say that this is going to end badly for Logan. However, thanks to his training, and the fact that now he's a force user, he can hear all the chattering about bets being made in Doinan's favor, how he's not going to last even 10 minutes and so on. Logan acknowledges that no one expects him to win. Suddenly, Sir Dominan tells Logan that he looks pretty relaxed for what's about to happen, and tells him that he should be careful not to get hurt, visibly mad about the situation. Logan thinks that even though he was brave enough to pick a fight with him, he still doesn't have the guts to say anything bad about the family in front of the other knights, since he is a little bitch. Next, an image of Rick shitting his pants pops up again, thinking that in the end, the young master has decided to fight with Sir Dominan, and that is probably their last day on Earth because they are screwed if he loses, then proceeds to stop breathing because of how scared he is. The referee appears and declares that the official duel between Logan McLain and Sir Dominan is about to begin, and that for the sake of safety, only wooden weapons will be used. The referee thinks introspects about whether he should be going through with this. However, there's nothing he can do, as Logan is being stubborn and isn't giving him any options, then proceeds to think that even though they are limited to wooden weapons, knights are mainly for users, so they could easily kill someone even with a wooden sword, then proceeds to start the duel, thinking that whatever happens isn't his responsibility anyway, and even though that is the case, he hopes for Sir Dominan to take it easy on Logan. As the duel begins, both fighters distance each other and take on their fighting stance. To the other knight's surprise, Sir Dominan starts charging his aura, and everyone is stunned by this move, using the force against a normal guy, which seems to be a rather brutal move. Rick thinks that this should even be considered cheating, and doesn't even want to think what would happen if Logan gets hit by that. The referee asks Sir Dominan to be gentle. However, Logan isn't intimidated by this move, saying that for the untrained eye, the force Sir Dominan shows could be frightening, but it is a sign that he's clumsy with the force, as leaking force is the sign of someone unable to control it. Logan starts taunting Sir Dominan once again, asking if everything is okay and if there's something that upsets him. Sir Dominan thinks of how he is annoyed by that one comment, the way Logan told him he is past his prime. Turns out Dominan was never a good knight. In fact, he was the worst knight in the order, and at the age of 40, he decided to retire, just going around, doing his errands, waiting for the day he could go home and not give a fuck anymore. Still, so prideful, that comment was something that hurt his ego. Sir Dominan angrily leaps forward with all his force, while Rick begs the referee to stop him, as the young master will die. But the referee says there is nothing he can do. Sir Dominan is about to strike Logan with his secret technique, Mighty Triple Kill, but Logan gracefully pins Domino's sword to the ground and mocks him, telling him that if dares to call himself a knight, he must do better than this. Everyone is stunned by what just happened. It was so fast that no one even saw the moment Dominan was defeated, and no one knew that Logan was a force user. Logan calls upon the referee and says that he wants to give Dominan a second chance. The referee is okay with this, and asks Sir Dominan if he's okay. Dominan thinks about how something like this is possible. How could he be weaker than that kid? He picks up his sword, and once again he tries to strike Logan, but he gets hit in the face like a rug instead and falls on his back. Logan acknowledges that even though he even gave him another chance, it's about time that he tucks his tail between his legs. And as Sir Dominan is about to admit his defeat, Logan strikes him again, saying that he has shown more than enough mercy for a vassal who tried to rebel against a superior, and that whatever is left now is punishment. He continues to strike Dominan repeatedly, as the others look in disbelief, thinking how cruel Logan is. The knights remain astounded, and don't understand how such a change is possible in such a short period of time. Both his force being awakened, and his sword skills appear to be the same as for someone who has been a swordsman for decades. Eventually, the massacre stops, and Logan is declared the winner. Later in his father's study, Logan and Patrick start talking. His father tells him that what he has seen is impressive, acknowledging his awakening, and asks what happened during his training. Logan thinks about the fact that his father was watching, not thinking that he would, and tells him that he just got rid of his greed and let go of everything. As he kept training with that mindset, at one point, he could just feel the force filling up inside him. Logan introspects that even though it might sound like a lie, this is a realization he gained in his past life, that only after giving up on avenging his family, he could become a force user, and how he only awakened after turning 40. His father seems impressed that the simple realization did that to him and says that he has truly changed, however, is mad at him that after this realization, his first action is to assault a knight. Logan argues that the man deserved it, and asks his father if he heard the full story from the other soldiers. His father tells him that he did, but still, he doesn't think that those measures were necessary. Logan says that it was, leaving his dad stunned, as that man was trying to fool the blood of his lord and make a joke out of him, and if left unchecked, he would have become a poison to the family's discipline. He then proceeds to think about how a hierarchy is the pillar that allows an organization to run, and when the hierarchy is shaken up, the organization itself falters. Besides, the one thing he realized after living as a mercenary for 10 years is that when it comes to a group of men with weapons, if you're reining them in, you have to make sure that you do it in one strike, and that today's event will be a lesson to the other knights. His father goes on to say that Dominan is definitely largely at fault since he forgot his duty in the first place and tried to fool Logan. But what Logan did was too much of a gamble, and that he should restrain himself for the time being. Logan is stunned to see that his father is forgiving him so easily, as this was not the case in his past life, and his father, seeing this jokingly, asks if he wishes a punishment, to which Logan replies that he's good. His father goes on to say that he's not accepting what he did as right, and that he also tells him that he is never to do something like this again without permission, since he hasn't even officially received his rank yet, and Logan respectfully says that he'll keep that in mind. After that, his father proceeds to tell him that his fiancée, Rena, is going to be visiting soon. Logan seems to be taken by surprise by this news. However, this is not the case, since what he's experiencing is not a surprise but actually excitement, as his payday is closer. Soon after, Princess Rena Wolf is presented to us. Every maid looking remains speechless, and all the guards are jealous of Logan. As she approaches, she gracefully greets Lord McLain, saying it has been far too long, and inquiries about his well-being. The patriarch, stunned by Rena's beauty, comments on what a beautiful lady she has become since the last time he had seen her. Rick also looks at her from afar, and is stunned to see her all grown up like this, and yet, he looks at Master Logan, who doesn't seem at all impressed by her presence. Rena says that she has a letter entrusted to her by the Count, her father, and so she begins reading it. The letter is addressed to Baron Patrick McLain, and it appears to be so boring that for the next 30 minutes, even the guards almost fall asleep. However, the conclusion the letter states brings everyone to their toes once again, as the final wish stated in the letter is that due to some unavoidable circumstances, for the arranged marriage between Rena and Logan to break off. After hearing all of these, Logan concludes that even though they've tried to go around it, the message is simple. They've thought that Patrick McLain would become an aura user, but instead, he has been stuck as a high-ranking knight for over 20 years, and to be honest, Logan is a loser, so it doesn't make sense for the Wolves clan to join hands with the McLains. Therefore, they just prefer to go their separate ways. After hearing this, Patrick is furious, since they are breaking the marriage without any proper reason, and he takes it that the Wolves are trying to humiliate the McLains. Rena replies that this is not the case, saying that she even asked to be the envoy, because she was concerned that Patrick would arrive at that conclusion, and so she wanted to clear the misunderstanding. Then she goes on to talk about how she still has vivid memories of her one-year stay at the McLain residence from when she was a child. Good memories that she had made alongside Logan in that beautiful and serene place, and that she does not wish to abandon those cherished moments that stayed with her for so long and that she considers so precious. However, even though that is the case, there is nothing she can do, as she is bound to her family, and she has no choice but to follow the decisions of the higher-ups. So the next best thing she can do is to come there and apologize to Logan and Patrick in person. Everyone is stunned by her words, saying that her heart is just as beautiful as her face. Everyone except for Logan and his stepmother, Marion Kairos. Marion asks Rina plain and simple what exactly is the reason for this breakup, saying that she would like to hear about those unavoidable circumstances. While this is happening, Logan thinks about his stepmother, how she is the biological mother to Ranyan, and how she has always regarded him as an enemy because of the matter of succession. Therefore, Logan thought she wouldn't involve herself in the matter. However, it seems that the family's honor is a different matter for her. Rina once again apologizes and dodges the question by saying that she is unaware of the reason for which this breakup is happening, and argues that she is only someone who shall marry and become part of another family. Therefore, her father doesn't discuss important family matters with her. Marion is furious, and she goes on to conclude that everything being said, she can understand that Rina has come to announce that she is breaking the engagement for no reason at all. Rina, scared shitless, with her white dress getting spots of brown, looks up at the McLains and announces that for the inconvenience created, the Wolves are prepared to pay 3 million gold as compensation for breaking up the engagement. Seeing this, Dwayne Filsner, McLain's financial manager, is about to have a heart attack, and Logan is happy to hear it as well, thinking that he can have the money, although this is not going to happen. Hearing all of this, Patrick almost goes on a murder spree, asking how she even dares to propose something like that. A knight from the House of Wolves jumps in front of Princess Rina to protect her and pleads for the patriarch to calm down and continue the conversation. Patrick asks him if he's a high-ranking knight like him, acknowledging that it's an impressive thing to achieve for someone his age, then goes on to say that perhaps the injury of the Wolves family's rising star would be a fair trade for the disgrace to the McLain's family's honor. The knight goes on to say that his master, Kyron Wolves, named Lord McLain an honorable man, and said that he wouldn't persecute the young princess or a junior. Rina then goes on to speak, saying that she does not wish to buy honor with money either, and asks them to accept the gold as a gesture of sincere attempt to maintain the friendship between the two families, despite the unavoidable criticism that is to come from these circumstances. Lord McLain clenches his teeth, thinking that if he presses any further in the matter, he shall become a man without honor, and realizes that this is exactly why Kyron sent those young ones. Patrick goes on to say that a visitor is a visitor, be him a jinx as well, and that the McLains are not persecuting their guests. However, he's not going to accept the Wolves' one-sided offer either, and in exchange for breaking up the engagement, House McLain only requests one thing: for the envoy, Princess Rina Wolves, to courteously apologize to his son, and that he will also refuse any other type of compensation. After all this has been said, Logan intervenes, saying that as the person concerned in the breaking of this engagement, he has a request, and kindly asks to be heard. Logan ponders that they must take the money, thinking that letting them apologize with nothing more than words is insane, especially since 3 million gold is a whole year's budget for the House of McLain. Also, half of their current funding is support from his stepmother's maiden family, Kairos, and thinks that they will go bankrupt the second that support is cut off. And for what? For honor? He thinks that everyone is out of their mind, and that they must take those 3 million no matter what. Logan then goes on to speak to his father, and says that he would like to accept the terms of the Wolves' apology, and Patrick gets furious again, asking if Logan is going to make him go back on his word. Logan reflects on the pressure his father is under, thinking that even though he does not have an aura, he's still a high-ranking knight, but sadly, this is nothing compared to others in the kingdom, and thinks that if he's not going to be able to handle this, he'll never be able to go forward either. Patrick tells Logan that House McLain isn't so poor that they need to abandon their honor for the sake of money. Logan exhales deeply and says that they actually are that. He goes on to argue that House McLain owes the bank 3 million gold right now, and a year's interest alone is 150,000 gold, and that without the Kairos' support, they would be bankrupt right now. They are the kingdom's greatest beggar family. He says that they are broke as fuck. At least that is what he would like to say. But since this is an official meeting, he's going to keep it to himself and tell his father that the very reason he must accept the money is for the sake of honor. His father then asks if he would have him go back on his word for honor, to which Logan replies that House Wolves have a higher standing than their family, and that the Count is also a Margrave of the East. And even though the House of Wolves is a leading power in the East, they're not the family they serve as their lord, and so ending this matter with just an apology makes him fear that rumors would go around that they've bowed down to the Wolves. Rina intervenes and says that the House Wolves aren't such an irrational family, and that they have the utmost respect for McLain's honor. To this, Logan asks if she doesn't find it ridiculous how she talks about rationality, yet she one-sidedly comes to break off the engagement. A memory from Logan's past life appears, and he thinks about how he then believed that Rina was genuinely sad about the unavoidable breakup. However, that was before a certain event. Rina and Logan are alone in a dormitory, and Rena thanks Logan for coming, saying that they might have to break up that day, but still she wants to create a last memory with him. Logan, thinking that his life as a master is finished anyway, asks for Rena to accompany him and run away that night. That's when Rena throws a knife at his face, and Logan is forced to pick up his sword and defend himself. Rena then undresses, and trying to shame him, starts asking if he really thinks that someone like him truly belongs with someone like her, then tells him to learn his place and get lost. She asks him why he is even carrying a sword since lost it to a kid, and tells him that he just made things so much easier for her. Logan doesn't understand what's happening, and Rena starts screaming when night bursts in. Rena accuses Logan of becoming aggressive and trying to take advantage of her, and since his sword was already drawn, it was a lie easy to believe. Logan recollects that he was already at fault for so many mistakes that not even his family believed him, and as a result, the McLains were forced to apologize to the wolves and pay a heft compensation. He says to himself that because of her, he was never able to trust women, and calls Rena a hoe, and says that she belongs to the streets, but she's not getting away with it this time. After those events, Logan is thinking about his plan, and how he was going to change his reputation within the family, figuring that by slowly showing how he's changed and convincing them, then they would also change. But it seems that his fight with Dominan made him come to a realization. The soldiers have turned a blind eye even when someone disrespected him, and the rumors of him losing to his brother have spread while he was away. Therefore, he can't transform the family by gaining acknowledgement from people like them, and there are only 9 months left until the regional war starts, and his reputation isn't important anymore. The only important thing is saving the family. Logan steps on his honor and tells Rena that he'll accept the compensation of the wolves' family, regardless of his family's wishes, to which Rena remains stunned. The patriarch is furious, and asks Logan how he dares to oppose to deny his will, to which Logan replies that he cannot be satisfied with lip service apologies, leaving his father astounded. He continues by saying that if their honor can be compensated for with words that will disappear in thin air, its worth will be just as light as those words. Hearing all this, Rena tries to make the best of the situation and says that the wolves family wishes to obey the will of the Baron, the patriarch of House McLain, and asks Patrick what he is choosing. Logan sees through this and thinks that everything she's saying is for the sake of saving her father's face, and she's probably shitting herself at the thought of paying 3 million gold. The patriarch, looking down on Rena, says that as a representative of the McLain family, he is satisfied with just a sincere apology. However, he'll leave it to Logan to decide if the apology is sincere or not. Hearing this, Marion is furious. Patrick once again turns towards Logan and tells him to think carefully. As if he accepts money for his dishonor, he is opening the door for his honor to be traded in the future as well. Logan, without giving it a second thought, deliberates that he can't cave into his father on this matter, and says that as the person concerned with the breaking of this engagement, he accepts the compensation offered by the House of Wolves, which surprises Marion and visibly upsets Rena. After Logan makes his choice, his father, disappointed, says that he thought Logan had become a little better, but actually, he changed for the worse, and says that is his fault for not teaching him the true value of honor. Logan, even though he's not telling his father directly, ponders that everything he does is for the sake of the family. In his room, after he receives the hefty compensation from Rena, Logan is disturbed by a knock on the door, thinking that is Rick and inviting him in, but instead Dwayne enters the room, the financial advisor of the family. Seeing him there, Logan thinks about what he's up to. An inner monologue of Dwayne is presented, reminiscing how he, as the financial advisor, had to run the McLain estate on an ever-shrinking budget, dealing both with the soldiers who demanded new weaponry and also with the servants who were running low on winter supplies. How he had to make up for the lack of money by begging the patriarchs-in-law, not knowing if he was the financial advisor or a king of beggars, thinking that if this hadn't been his hometown, he would have resigned a long time ago. However, right now, he has the chance to be comfortable for at least a few years, thinking that the only person standing in his way is this clueless, foolish kid, saying to himself that Logan will have to share the 3 million with him. Dwayne tells Logan that he only stopped by to greet him, as he left a great impression on him yesterday through the way he stood up for himself, and how he didn't cave in the slightest bit to unwarranted outside pressure, being quite literally an amazing apprentice, truly fitting to be the heir of the McLain family. As he says all that, he thinks that his flattery must have touched Logan deeply, as he never received it since he only did stupid things before, imagining that it would be so simple to take his money. However, Logan is not at all impressed by whatever he says, so goes on to say that in these times of hardship, 3 million gold is like rain in a drought, and that his wits have allowed his family a huge sigh of relief. And once again, Logan stands unimpressed by Dwayne's words, saying that he doesn't understand why the family would breathe a sigh of relief as these are his money. Hearing this, Dwayne loses hope, thinking that Logan is really going to use all the money for himself but still tries to stay patient, since in the 20 years as a financial advisor for the McLains, groveling has already become a normal habit of his, and that this situation is no different. And so he starts crying, leaving Logan a little shocked, and making him ask if the family's situation is really that bad. Dwayne goes on to tell Logan that he doesn't know if he's aware or not, but the family does the Coopers Bank 3 million gold, and wants to continue by saying that the interest alone is 150,000 gold, but he doesn't get to finish his sentence, as Logan intervenes and completes it for him. Dwayne, stunned, asks if he knew that already, and Logan replies that the interest shouldn't be a problem, as right now it's harvest time, and he should be able to pay that with the money made from the crops. Dwayne tries to persuade him that even just running the barony generally costs a lot of money, and that they are always on a tight budget, and tries to say that if he could help them a bit, things could change, but is again interrupted by Logan, who doesn't want to hear anything about it. Dwayne asks why wouldn't he help him, as he thought that he opposed the Baron for the sake of the family. Logan says that he agrees with him, and he'll use the money for the sake of the family, but not for the immediate costs of running the barony. Instead, he needs to prepare for the future. Dwayne, furious, thinks that Logan has no idea what he's talking about, and thinks that Logan should hand the money over to him. Logan then goes on to ask Dwayne if he's right when saying that even if he would pay off the family debts, that wouldn't change the family's situation much. Dwayne argues that having a bigger budget would make the estate easier to run for at least a couple of years, and Logan asks what happens after that, saying that even though that is the case, they will fall back into debt as they don't even have any specialty products to sell, concluding that it's a vicious cycle, and he's trying to break it by using a plan devised by him for which he also needs the money. Dwayne is stunned to hear all this, and thinks if this is really the same hooligan he used to know, saying that he thought Logan was just a kid who didn't care the slightest for the family affairs. Logan then goes on to say that he has a favor to ask of Dwayne, and that if he helps him, he might share part of the money with him, helping him to pay for some of the family's expenses. Dwayne asks what he needs, and Logan tells him that he needs to gather some mercenaries. Later, Logan speaks to Rick. It appears that he is preparing to leave again, and Rick asks where on earth he is going and says that it hasn't even been that long since he came back from solitary training. Logan replies that he is leaving to make money, to which Rick says that he already has a lot of money, but Logan says he needs more. Rick goes on to say that for sure the Patriarch won't allow him to leave right now, as the atmosphere in the castle is tense, to say the least, to which Logan replies that he's not going to ask his father, and that he's just going to snake out. Rick is mortified by what he hears, but Logan doesn't care, thinking that if he can't overturn his reputation right now, it's impossible to change anything, so he has to gather forces from the exterior. Luckily, he is familiar with what is happening on the outside right now, as if it's just around the time he was kicked out of the family in his previous life, and concludes that his first move is to seek out a certain man. Rick tries to talk some sense into him, saying that he's not thinking straight and that becoming a runaway at his age wouldn't bring anything good for him. Logan is annoyed by Rick's persistence, and Rick asks what is he supposed to do if he just runs away, and tells Logan that if he's really going to leave, he might as well step on him on his way out, which he is about to do since he doesn't really care. Logan tells Rick that everything is going to be okay for him, as he is going to write a letter to his father, so no one will blame him. Rick asks what he is going to write, but Logan only smiles at him, and Rick sighs in relief. After Logan left, Rick took the letter to the Patriarch, and he looks like he's about to make the beaches of Normandy look like a fucking joke. The letter opens with a greeting to the Patriarch, and goes on to say that heartbroken by the engagement, decided to leave for some air, and that he will be back soon. Signed by Logan McLain. After this, poor Rick just cries, and wishes for Logan to come back. A history of the McLain family is presented, and so it seems that even just 200 years ago, the McLain family wasn't in the position it's in now. The vast and extensive country stretched from the neighboring Turson Viscounty to the Sylvan and Perna Viscontis, as well as the Bifrost Plains were revered as the ruler and lord of the southwestern area of the Grandia Kingdom. But until the current Lord Patrick McLain, the useless work of the last 3 generations of ancestors caused their title to be demoted with the size of their territory greatly decreased. The vast storage of grain that was once called the McLain Plains was given to the most powerful vassal, and the useful land was divided among different vassals. The place that they ended up in as if chased out was the rough and dry land near the southern mountains, so the McLains were bound to financial hardship. There were no suitable regional products, and the copper mines that were common in mountain territories didn't exist. Logan thinks that in this state, even if they win the regional war, they would need to ask for help from Kairos continuously, and so to end this vicious cycle, they need a lot of money, much more than the 3 million he already has, and says that there is someone here that can help him. As he enters the Grandia Kingdom's greatest trading city, Kale, a lot of voices start calling for customers for different items like rings, shields, or even just fresh vegetables and fruits. And Logan thinks that coming here helps him remember just how remote the McLain barony is. He goes on to say that based on his memory, the person he is looking for spent their youth in Kale, and that the residents said he lives around the area he's in. The man he is looking for is Goldbug Philip Claude. A description of the Empire is being depicted. The strongest nation within the continent, the Ares Empire, is a strong centralist nation based on the merit system. Therefore, as long as you are talented, regardless of gender or age, you have the chance to succeed, being a nation where you can enjoy power and riches, even as a foreigner, a person who is not a citizen of the Empire. A perfect example of that is Grandia Kingdom's Philip Claude. He is one of the wealthiest merchants who moved to the Empire and is the continent's greatest war merchant, called the Trader of Grandia Kingdom. However, in reality, even while being called Goldbug, he would support those from his home country and use his money to create the miracle of Grandia sovereign dominion. As he's strolling the streets, Logan sees a person on the streets and wonders, could that be him? The kid in the middle of the streets has just been scammed and thinks about how he's going to live from now on, since he doesn't have any money left. Logan watches him thinking how he heard that his business failed because he got scammed, but seeing it himself is more horrible than he ever imagined. While the kid thinks about ending it, Logan approaches him trying to make his acquaintance, asking if he is Philip Claude. Philip replies that he indeed is, and asks who Logan is, thinking that by his future, red eyes, and strong gaze, he might be dangerous. Logan says that he would like to talk to Philip for a minute, but Philip is still skeptical of Logan, wondering how he knows him. At that moment, Philip feels a strong emotion in Logan's eyes, one that the businessman Philip had seen countless times, that being greed. Philip goes on to theorize that by his timing and how he's wearing old armor, he's a mercenary gangster. Logan tries to make his motifs known, but Philip loses it and starts screaming that his payment date is not due yet, and that his commercial property sale will proceed to arrive in 3 days, so he should come back then. Logan assures him that he's not there to receive any of his debts, but Philip barks like a mad dog and tells him once again that his sales haven't processed yet, and tells Logan to go away. Once again, Logan tries to calm Philip down and tells him that he's not there to collect any money, but instead to invest money, leaving Philip shocked, asking if by that he means to invest in Philip, and Logan replied affirmatively. Then Philip goes on to think that if he's not there to receive money from him, then he must be a crazy bastard, crazy to want to invest in someone like him who completely failed, yet he's also wondering that maybe Logan is telling the truth, and asks him how much he wants to invest. And Logan asks him in return how much does he need, saying that he'll support him enough to repay his debts and make a comeback. Philip, still not convinced, analyzes the look on Logan's face and the dirt on his armor, saying that he must have come from far away, and so he realizes something. Logan once again tries to ask Philip how much he needs, but Philip replies by calling him a nasty bastard and says that if he wants to scam him, he should have prepared properly, just like the other bastards that just scammed him. He goes on to say that Logan is not an investor, and by the looks of that crest on his armor, he must belong to the Southwest McLain barony, calling them a beggar family that needs to live off the coattails of their in-laws. How could they want to invest when that family can't even repay their own debts? Also, he tells Logan that if he got caught impersonating a noble, he'd be executed, and says that anyway, he chose the wrong person, as he is really broke. Logan analyzes things from another perspective, thinking that even though he's at the bottom, Philip makes quite astute judgments, as expected from a future magnate, and wonders how could he appease him, while Philip is whining in the middle of the street that he doesn't even have enough money to eat or die. And at that moment, Logan gets an idea. He asks Philip to pay attention to him for a second, and shows him his aura, leaving him perplexed. Philip thinks that someone who's a genius like him, who has awakened force at such an early age, would be so stupid to throw it all away for the sake of a scam. Philip apologizes, saying that a lot has happened to him, and that he is a little sensitive, and asks what was his business with him. Logan says that he wants to hire him forever, paying his debt as a freebie. Philip is once again skeptical, asking if the McLain family even has the money for something like that. Logan asks how much his debt is, arguing it must be around $250,000, saying that he'll pay his debt and give him an additional $300,000, and reveals the money he had been carrying with him all this time. Philip looks at Logan and thinks he is an angel, so he goes on to sign the contract. The terms are that if the subordinate, Philip, ever tries to purposely harm the boss, they will feel excruciating pain as if their soul is being torn apart. Just a formality, really. The witch that sealed the contract tells Philip that if he doesn't like that, he should awaken force himself and become at least a high-ranked knight, or pay a 4-circle mage or hire several hundred times the amount of money as the contract that has just been struck, and ask them to lift the curse, leaving Philip astounded once again. She sends them away on a positive note, telling him to swipe by again, and Philip wonders if he just got fucked over, thinking that he was out of his mind when he thought of Logan as an angel, especially now when he realized that he just paid an expensive magic contract just to make him his salve, when just one page of the contract is worth 30 slaves alone. Logan goes on to say that they can't really trust each other now, since they've just met, so if he invests a fortune, he needs a reasonable guarantee, and assures Philip that once they get to build some trust in each other, he will get rid of the contract, and throws his hand in a sign of good companionship. Philip thinks that this contract is a mess, with no detailed period of time or conditions, but he has no other choice than to trust Logan for the time being. So he shakes his hand. Philip asks what Logan needs him to do, to which he replies that first, they need to buy some monster meat. Upon hearing this, Philip calls Logan a psycho. Logan thinks that Philip's reaction is normal, as monster blood and meat contain poison, so burning them would be common sense. However, in a few years, the situation will change drastically, as it becomes known that you can make a monster blood neutralizer with common ingredients, and some areas lacking in food begin consuming monsters. That winter, cases of disabilities were being treated upon consumption of the monster Kalok. Even those that had their private parts injured became physically sterile and saw the effect, and just a year after those events, the Royal Mage Tower validates them. Kalok becomes impossible to find throughout the continent, as once species disappear simply from the research results that they are good for virility, and so Logan thinks that knowing this, he can easily make 3 million, or even more than that. Seeing what he got into, walking around with a madman, Phillips looks at Logan disappointed and wonders if he wouldn't be better off just running away. In a tavern, Philip and Logan start discussing their next course of action. Logan tells Philip that he wants to buy 1 million gold worth of monster meat, and Philip thinks he's crazy. Logan tells him to calm down, telling him that he would make money even if he would spend even more on it. Philip says he's against it and asks Logan if he's sure about what he's doing. He replies affirmatively. Philip asks him what the price range per unit to buy Kalok meat is, and he says that Kalok meat isn't worth anything right now, and that people are mostly burning it because of the lack of buyers. So if he zero orders someone to bring him the corpses, it would be around 200 gold, as per the kingdom's transportation charges, and also the transportation fee is charged per unit. So if he were to bring a lot of Kaloks at once, it will be way cheaper to transport. Philip finds Logan's thinking impressive, as he even thinks of the transportation charges and says that he is right about the costs, asking if, with that unit price and the budget of 1 million in mind, he's going to hire a mercenary guild for a kingdom-wide hunt and then buy everything for them. Logan tells him that he's correct and asks if he finds anything wrong with that. Philip explains that his plan is completely wrong, and that since all the monster meat is being thrown away right now, he should just hire a merchant guild for the price of beef, and everything is solved. He goes on to say that there are merchants out there that would bring and sell anything for $1, and even if that's trash to be thrown away, they'll ask each other to acquire it for them, and he is so confident to even say that they will probably bring him all the Kalok meat in the kingdom as soon as he asks for it, all cut and ready. Logan is amazed by Philip's idea, thinking that his investment is already paying off, and being a little sussy, he calls Philip an adorable punk for some reason. Philip tells him to not overthink money matters from now on and leave it all to him. After all, his faith depends on Logan's future. Logan then proceeds to give Philip a list of things, cartridges made of ironwood, springs and glue, and tells him to stay in Kale and buy all those items in bulk. But Philip once again gets a little skeptical and asks Logan if he's trying to open a toy factory, to which he replies that he has something even better in mind. Actually, Logan made Philip buy the raw materials for weapons of war, and goes on to remember how weapons made of these materials were used in the Grandia Kingdom's invasion in his past life, and depending on the battle conditions, a mere soldier could even keep a knight in check with those weapons. He also thinks that he entrusted Dwayne to hire mercenaries before coming there, so just getting these weapons into their hands could be enough to get an upper hand in the regional war. But first he has to find a craftsman capable of making these weapons, and an instructor to train the mercenaries as well. 2 days later, in Harun, the city of mercenaries, Logan talks to Kaisalan, an A-rank mercenary, trying to hire him as an instructor, but Kaisalan says he's never productively trained anyone before. Logan tells him that the job shouldn't be too hard, as he'll just be training the C-rank mercenaries he'll hire. Still reticent, Kaisalan tells Logan that he doesn't know what he's heard about him, but all he managed to do is guide a few youngsters, and that he should entrust this mission to professional educators. Logan thinks that Kaisalan can't fool him as he knows all of this stuff since he worked with him in his past life, and acknowledges that Kaisalan can wield every weapon there is, and even has excellent horse riding skills. Moreover, Kaisalan's value shines when he becomes an instructor. After all, the mercenary squad he raised after he had been gravely wounded and thus retired boasted skills better than any other of their kind, but he doesn't seem to be in the mood right now, so Logan offers him 4,000 gold for it. Kaisalon is being difficult and wouldn't take Logan's offer, so Logan raises the pay to 6,000. But Kaisalon still refuses, so Logan raises again to 7,000. Once again, Kaisalon is difficult, trying to tell Logan that money can't bring him everything he wants. But Logan raises the pay again to 8,000, and that is when Kaisalon caves and accepts Logan's offer, even thanking him in advance. They talk, and Logan tells him that he is the first son of the McLain Baron family, and Logan asks him if he's not curious about why he's hiring mercenaries from the countryside, and Kaisalon says he's not interested as long as he's getting paid. While walking the streets, they witness a man whipping a group of men, shouting that if he's going to be late, he's going to kill all of them. Kaisalon goes on to say that, as Logan might already know, the name of the nickname of the city of Harun is the city of mercenaries and slaves, and that they will see a lot more of these things as they go forward, because from there on, the city becomes a slave market, to which Logan replies that he is familiar with the situation, thinking that he's also going to buy a slave at this market. One merchant notices Logan, thinking that he must be a clueless country bumpkin, and calls him to show his goods, saying that he offers slaves at the cheapest price. But once he sees Kaisalon, he gets scared shitless, and seeing this, Logan relaxes, thinking that it was definitely worth it to hire him. At some point, he reaches a shop with more guards than the others, and thinks that he has reached the right place, and the old man greets Logan and tells him that he assumes he knows what he gets himself into, and Logan says that he's there to buy a dwarf. The old merchant tells Logan that he has come to the right place, and says that other world races are rare, so they take special care of them, inviting Logan to step forward. He shows him a pair of elves, and tells him that they were very hard to acquire, and asks him if he has seen elves anywhere before. The old merchant tries to tell Logan about the two elves, but he does not care, and tells the merchant to give him the dwarf chained in the back of the room. The merchant says that he can clearly see he is a dwarf by the way he looks, and that he will find plenty of use for him, as even among dwarves who are well known to be great craftsmen, he's one of the few expert rank craftsmen. Logan remains a little amazed when he hears that, and thinks that dwarfs are innately skilled with their hands, a race that creates and fixes objects and finds meaning in them from their youth until old age. And an expert rank dwarf is even beyond what he was looking and doesn't even need to worry about the job he's going to give him. So Logan inquires about the price, and the merchant tells him that since he is an expert rank, the price starts from at least 200,000 gold. Logan looks down on the man and asks him if he looks like a pushover to him, and the old man almost shits his pants and lowers the price by 50,000 gold. Kaisalon thinks of how fast he made the old man drop the price. The dwarf looks at Logan and says that what he did was unrelenting, but Logan finds it basic. The dwarf goes on to ask where he's going now, to which Logan replies that he'll take him to the McLain estate in the southwest, and that he'll be making the things he requests of him, to which the dwarf replies, that is as he thought. Dwarves are known to be skilled with their hands, but that is not the case for slave dwarves, because despite being the race of craftsmen, without passion they can't create a true work of art. And Logan thinks that he wants to instill passion in this dwarf, and tells him that if he does his best for him for the next 20 years, he'll send him back to the mountains, saying that 20 years is nothing to his kind anyway. The dwarf is happy to hear that, and wants to thank Logan, when suddenly another slave cuts himself loose and starts running away from his master, and Logan sees all this. However, he doesn't get far, as a soldier manages to catch him. It turns out that Logan finds that slave familiar, a blue-haired and blue-odd-eyed slave, and suddenly he remembers and accidentally speaks his thoughts aloud, making Kaisalon wonder what he's saying. Logan is wondering how this could be possible, meeting the noble slayer here, reminiscing how in his past life there was an immensely famous aura user in the kingdom. Once a slave, he ran away after killing his masters, going on a murder spree, killing nobles and knights alike, and finally hiding for the next 10 years. When he reappeared, he used aura, proof that he had ascended past his humanity, making his life mission to kill every noble he could find in his path and earning the title Noble Slayer. Logan goes on to say that the slave escape incident happened about a year after he became a mercenary, and so according to the timeline, he indeed would still be a slave right now. If he rescues that boy right now, he'll have a future aura user on his side. But the problem is that this guy is an unstoppable homicidal maniac. Logan thinks that if he becomes a lethal weapon that will slash his own allies, he can just lock him up. As the master tries to hit the boy once again, Logan draws his sword and stops his leg, and gets the master by surprise, and when he notices the family crest, he tells him that he must be a customer and becomes a little bitch. The slave master goes on to say how embarrassed he is, and says that the goods weren't listening, so he had to train them, and asks Logan how he can be of service to him. Logan says that he would like to buy some slaves, meaning the two children, but the master tells him that because they are both rare red and blue odd-eyed children, the price is hefty, and asks him if he's sure about it. Logan asks for the price, and the master tells him that is at least 10,000s for each. Logan thinks that a sturdy young slave costs around 300 gold, and yet he dares to set the price 100 times higher for 2 kids that are barely skin and bone. Logan goes on to say that considering the worth of the noble Salyer, 10,000 gold is cheap, but there is no way this guy knows about that. And besides that, he doesn't want to let this scumbag make money behind his back. And so Logan says that 30 times the asking price for a sturdy slave for 2 kids that are about to collapse soon with one looking like he is on the verge of death is kinda expensive. The master goes on to argue that they are the only ones here, and Logan says that he'll pay 500 gold for each, a price higher than that of a healthy slave, which should be more than enough. The master haggles, saying that at that price, he's not even going to get back the money he has invested. Logan gets annoyed and asks the master if he thinks him that stupid not to know what a slave costs, and the master shits his pants. The master goes on to think that Victor is always causing him trouble, so he's sure he'll also do it in the future, and goes on to accept Logan's offer. Kaisalon carries the injured kid on his back, saying that it's impressive how he got up already since his injury wasn't one to allow such a quick recovery, and Logan goes on to say that he truly got back on his feet in no time. What actually happened is that Logan has been releasing force along the way to heal the kid, which is even better than the magic of most low-level priests. However, he is stunned to see that the other kid might have detected his aura, while even Kaisalon failed to catch it, but he dismisses it as a coincidence. Victor jumps from Kaisalon's back and tries to attack Logan, but he doesn't even manage to get a punch in, as Logan catches him by the neck and tells him that if he doesn't know if he's full of spirit or just plain stupid, he goes on to ask if he understands the situation he is in, and asks Victor if he looks as weak as that petty slave merchant to him. He tells Victor that it's great that he's full of fighting spirit, but he should learn to pick his opponents wisely, and tells him that he hopes this will be the last warning he needs. He goes on to say that if he obeys, he guarantees that he and his little sister will be safe, but if something like this happens ever again, he will get rid of them both. He drops Victor, thinking that should be enough, and tells him that he plans on fostering him as a knight. Victor asks if he refers to him, and Logan says that he does, and tells him that he should also know that knights are honorary nobles, and that naturally he should be able to escape his status of slave, and not just him, but also his sister. Hearing this, Victor looks at his sister and says he'll do whatever it takes. Logan looks at them and realizes that his assumption is correct, that his sister is the way to control the noble slayer's violent nature. He goes on to say that he'll start their training as soon as they get back to the house, and then proceeds to ask Hamar, the dwarf, to come closer for a second. He tells him that he'll start to write down the contract, a magic contract that will state the following. If Hamar works for him for the next 20 years, he'll send him back to the mountains. Hamar is stunned by this, not believing that Logan is actually going to send him back to his people. Logan goes on to say that it's hard to trust a promise that consists only of words in the air, and asks Hammer if there's anything wrong, or if he doesn't want to proceed with this, to which Hamar gratefully replies that he wants it with all his heart, and that he'll make anything he wants him to. He goes on to thank Logan again, saying that he didn't believe he'd do that. Seeing this, Logan thinks that if a contract was all that is needed to get him motivated, then he is the one in profit here, and goes on to acknowledge that he got everything he could possibly want from this outing, and even more, as he even manages to put his hands on the noble slayer, and says that the preparation for the war between the fiefs is going smoothly. However, at this point, Logan didn't know that rumors of his strange behavior had already spread in the entirety of the McLain grounds while he was away, that his reputation has hit rock bottom and was going underground, and that Rick was drowning in the mess trying to make amends, as he thinks what the hell is Logan up to. Next, it appears that Logan has returned home, and there's no one as happy in the world to see him as Rick. Logan looks at Rick, and asks him how he's been, to which Rick replies by asking Logan if he's serious while asking such a question, and almost having a stroke. Rick continues by asking Logan what he has been up to while gone, and if he's heard the rumors that have been circulating about him, that he is a perverted monster file that spends 150,000 gold on monster meat. As it turns out, just a few days earlier, Philip has gathered all the merchants he could find, and told them he wants to buy monster meat in the name of the young master Logan McLain. Turns out that even by then, people have already heard about Logan, and how his engagement was broken, and how he ripped off his fiancée. Philip himself started some strange rumors about monster meat, trying to increase the number of sellers, but he didn't know that his master Logan had such a past, going on by saying that he thought he was just a crazy scumbag. However, Philip saw an opportunity in those rumors, and set the price of monster meat as low as he could while still making the merchants run for it, like they would for hot bread, 1 gold per kilo, saying that no merchant would refuse to sell trash to a scumbag who is willing to pay money for it. Then he went on to say that if they want money, they should bring him all the monster meat they can get. It appears that Philip's aggressive salesmanship thus resulted in merchants gathering monster meat, and rumors about Logan spread all throughout the fiefs near Kale as well. Hearing all this, Logan comments that Philip has done his job perfectly, and Rick is stunned and doesn't understand how Logan can laugh in such a moment, and then goes on to say that he should take a look at the faces of those that came with him and think of how many of the rumors they must have heard for them to look in such a way. To all this, Logan simply replies that he shouldn't worry, as all will be over soon. But Rick tells him that he shouldn't be so calm as next. He has to face the patriarch, and he is furious. In his father's study, Patrick asks Logan if he enjoyed running away from home, to which Logan replies that it was indeed a rewarding trip. Patrick goes on to tell Logan that he has heard rumors going around that he has been doing all sorts of crazy things, but he is glad that it has at least been rewarding. Logan defends by saying that rumors are just what they appear to be, senseless lies, and that he has no shame whatsoever for his actions. His stepmother goes on to speak and tells Patrick that it is just as she has said before. Logan has no awareness about his position and how his actions can dishonor his family name. However, Logan doesn't let her finish, and cuts in by replying that what she says is a bit excessive, as he merely spent the money from his engagement breaking as he saw fit. Marion intervenes again, asking Patrick if he heard what he's saying and if he still sides with him after all that, but Patrick shouts that this is enough, and kindly asks her to leave, as he wants to speak to Logan alone for a moment. Patrick tells Logan that this will be the last warning he's given. Logan looks afraid as he stands before his furious father. Patrick asks Logan what he's thinking, and tells him that they need to have a frank chat about what is going on with him. Logan introspects, and says that his father won't let his actions slide this time, and goes on to tell Patrick that he wouldn't understand even if he'd told him. Patrick replies by asking Logan if by any chance it isn't him who doesn't want to be understood, and if Logan realizes what people around him are saying, that he is violent, cruel, money-obsessed, and even insane. He goes on to ask Logan how much longer he has to cover for him, and if there is such a time in the future, that he begs him to give Patrick a notice. That way he can at least make the excuse that he tried his best for the sake of Logan's dead mother. Logan thinks that he cannot believe Patrick brought up his mother in the conversation, since he never mentioned her in his previous life, not even when he was kicked out, and how maybe Patrick hasn't fully let go of his hopes for him yet. Logan asks his father to give him 1 year, and tells him that in a year, he will prove to Patrick the reasons for his actions, and once again asks him to grant him this last favor. Next, we see Patrick alone in his chamber, thinking about what just happened, acknowledging how strange the world favor sounds between a parent and child, and thinking that if Logan hasn't proven his words after a year, then he'll have to make a decision, as he is the patriarch of McLain before he is a father. A picture of Logan's mother appears, Raina, to which Patrick apologizes, saying that he does not understand what is going on with their son. Patrick monologues that he promised to protect him at all costs, and to raise him well, but in the end, he was too neglectful. As he walks the castle's halls, Logan meets his younger brother, and what he sees leaves him stunned. Ranyan has awakened the Force. Ranyan tells Logan that just as he thought, Logan caught up with him right away. Logan is happy to see that Ranyan has awakened the Force at such a young age, just 14 years old, and thinks that in his previous life, Ranyan's Force hasn't awakened until the war between the fiefs, but it awakened so quickly this time. Ranyan tells Logan that it's all thanks to him, and Logan doesn't understand what he means by that. Then Ranyan goes on to say that the knights were stopping him from meeting Logan when he returned, and that is when he awakened. It appears that he defeated the knights in the process of trying to meet with Logan. Logan starts laughing and tells Ranyan that he did a great job, and thinks that if he teaches Ranyan the divine sword secrets as soon as the Force stabilizes, then he can become much stronger than he was in his past life. At a cottage in the south of the McLain estate, Logan goes to meet Dwayne, and he tells Logan that the 35 C-rank mercenaries he was asked to recruit are all there. It appears that the mercenaries are mad at Logan, asking themselves if this whole thing isn't some kind of scam, since they were called there 10 days ago, and until then they've never met Logan. One of them ever remarks that a lowly baron family wouldn't dare to begrudge a mercenary guild unless they're crazy, and another one comments that they may never know, as the rumors about Logan have even reached them as well, and they are bad enough. Then they go on to comment on Logan's appearance, how he is carrying a sword and armor, trying to act like a soldier. Hearing everything, Logan thinks that he gotta pull on the reins with these rascals that fight for a living, or he will never get through to them. Logan then addresses one of the mercenaries and asks him if he thinks that wearing armor and carrying a sword is funny, to which the guy replies that he doesn't understand what he means by that, and thinks about how could Logan hear his comment from over there. Logan goes on to mock the guy by saying that you can for sure think that, but only if you have the skills to back it up. Then he tells the guy that he is only a lowly C-rank mercenary, and asks him what non-existent skills of his give him the right to look down on others. He then rhetorically asks if he offended him, acknowledging that even a lowly man like him has pride, and tells him to step forward. Logan then makes a bargain with the guy, telling him that if he manages to hit even a single blow on him, he will let him leave right then, and also pay him an entire year's worth of money, making it a promise with the honor of a noble at stake, and says that everyone there is a witness. The mercenary steps forward and tells him that everything being said is great for him, since now he can't go back on his word, and looks down on Logan, trying to scare him. How could you scare anything with that ape face, though? The crowd starts to comment on the mercenary's size and ask themselves if he might perhaps be a B ranker, to which another guy replies that he isn't yet, but he might get there after this job. Hearing this, Logan huffs and realizes that this must be the reason for which the mercenary is so confident. The mercenary tells Logan to take the first blow, and Logan replies by telling him that he will regret this decision. However, the mercenary disregards the danger, telling Logan that he has been using a sword so much longer than him, so he shouldn't worry about that, and asks Logan if he needs an upper hand by any chance. That is when Logan charges his force and punches the guy in the face. Everyone is stunned to see the sheer force of this blow, and it seems that Logan ended this duel in one blow, leaving the guy dead on the ground with his teeth flying into the sky. The other mercenary looks in disbelief, while Logan simply stretches his shoulder, huffs, and asks if there's anyone else who wants to run their mouth for no good reason. The mercenaries can't believe that Logan is a force user at that age, and think that this is ridiculous. Kaisalan looks at Logan and thinks that he thought him to be out of the ordinary, but he never realized he was this good. And then Logan goes on to say that no one will comment ever again from that point on. After that, he goes on to formally introduce himself as Logan McLain, the one who called upon them, and then says that many of them are probably wondering why is he throwing money around and hiring mercenaries, and tells them that he wants to train them to be crossbow cavalrymen. Dwayne and Kaisalam look surprised, and the mercenaries are not sure what to think of this idea, one of them even saying that they would just spend all their time reloading them. Kaisalan then quietly whispers to Logan that crossbows aren't efficient weapons for cavalrymen to use, but Logan says he already knew that, and Kaisalan asks why he'd want them to use crossbows if he knows. Logan goes on to explain that crossbows are far more destructive than bows, but for the inexperienced shooter it takes more than a minute just to load. But if you are on a horse, you're going to run out of firepower in just a minute, even if you're carrying 3 or 4 loaded crossbows, and it's no wonder they're baffled. Logan tells Kaisalan that even though he thinks that he is blowing money cosplaying as a soldier, he must train them thoroughly first, as he will find out the reason for this later, and as a last comment says, crossbow cavalrymen will be a great force for McLain, even for beyond the forthcoming war between the fiefs. Kaisalan is not sure what to think, but accepts his master's request. A few days later, Logan looks at a piece of paper in his room, and thinks that out of the 350 mercenaries they've hired, only 312 have passed the simple qualification test, and says that it's good enough. Then someone disturbed him. It appears to be Hamar, who wants to ask Logan what is on the piece of paper he has been given. Logan tells him that it's a schematic of the crossbow he's going to make for him, and continues by saying that it's probably crude to the eye of a professional. Logan thinks that it's a weapon he used for decades in his previous life, so he has roughly drawn all the structures he can remember, and since Hamar is an expert-ranked dwarf, he should be able to build it. Hamar acknowledges that he has to put a cartridge that holds bolts in the back of a crossbow and make it auto-load, and that it needs to be able to fire 3 shots in a row. Than asks who the hell came up with such a stupid idea, to which Logan replies that he did, and Hamar looks annoyed. After that, Hamar goes on to say that it is a marvelous idea, but with the twisted string in a structure like this, the strings won't hold up and they'll break. Also, if you put a wooden box like this behind it, it's going to be uncomfortable for the shooter as well, and asks Logan what he is going to do about that, to which Logan replies that this is not his problem, and that Hamar needs to solve it, and upon hearing this, the dwarf looks furious. Logan tells him that it was a joke, and goes on to say that he must reduce the size of the bolt to reduce the cartridge itself, and tells Hamar that he's right in saying it's a one and done, and instead, they can make the cartridges prefabricated and have them reload every time you shoot, and that they will call them magazines for convenience. Hearing this, Hamar is stunned, and says that even for a skilled shooter, a crossbow can't fire 2 shots in a minute, and that it would be like a weapon that's beyond our time, and Logan thinks that this is because that is a weapon created in the future. Hamar then tells Logan that to think all it takes to make something like this is a cartridge, spring, some wood, glue, and a bowstring. This is a motivating challenge for him, and he says he will give it a shot. Upon hearing this, Logan asks Hamar when will it be done, to which Hamar asks if Logan is asking him to build something he's never heard of or seen with a deadline. Logan then goes on to say that it's still a weapon humans have made, to which Hamar remains stunned, asking where and who has made it. Logan disregards the matter by telling Hamar that he doesn't need to know that, and challenges him by saying that if doesn't think he can do it, he should give up. Hamar says that all he'll need is 1 month, and that he will build something far superior in that time. Seeing this, Logan is happy to find out what happens when you mess with a dwarf's ego. Later on the training grounds of the castle, Victor is seen running, and Logan tells him that he is once again slowing down and that he can do better. And so Victor tries to pick up speed again. Logan then goes on to think how he's only been feeding and making him sleep for days since Victor arrived. But he can't believe what a difference that little food made. Then he commands Victor to rest, and so his little sister runs up to him. Logan once again thinks about the good investment he's made by purchasing Victor, how a 14-year-old who is much smaller than his peers ran 20 kilometers without rest, saying that he is really talented after all. But what he loves most is his grit and perseverance to the point where he feels no worries about nothing. It's now clear to him that he wasn't the noble slayer by nature. Rather, that huge change in his life was probably because of his sister. Logan swiftly ends his thought and tells Victor that the rest is over and that it's time for the next training session. He throws a sword in Victor's hands and tells him that from now on, they'll be learning the Grandia Kingdom's sword technique, which every knight trainee in this country learns. Then he proceeds to ask for Victor's attention to demonstrate. Logan grips his sword tight and slashes the air with power. However, Victor seems to be unimpressed by this and thinks that all he wants to do now is pass out and sleep. Still, he bites his lip and thinks that if the price for this good food and a good night's sleep is exhaustion, then he'll do everything he has to. He then picks up his sword, just like Logan did, and cuts through the air flawlessly. Looking at this scene, Logan thinks that what he did was perfect, just the same as his strike. Not just the movement, but every single breath, and he's only shown it to him once. So he is stunned to see how easily he was able to follow it, and says that not even Ranyan was that good, and they are the same age. Seeing this, Logan tells Victor that if he can build up his stamina and perform the sword technique perfectly for more than 1,000 times in a row, by then he could probably call himself a knight as well. Upon hearing this, Victor's eyes light up, thinking of himself in that posture. Logan then asks Victor if he can do it, to which Victor happily replies affirmatively. Logan goes on to tell Victor that if there's anything else he wants for his training, he can ask Rick, and that he can probably take care of most things for him. But Victor says he doesn't need anything. Logan asks Victor if he's sure, and Victor tells him that his only request is for Logan to look after his sister, and that will be enough for him, which Logan finds to be perfect. While training Victor, Logan introspects that Victor might not be able to go to war right away, but he will be a great help to McLain in the future. He also says that both the mercenary corps and the weapon Hamar will craft will be a formidable force, and yet he shouldn't be so hopeful, since Hamar may not be able to make a good crossbow, and even if he does, the mercenaries may not be able to use it properly. Since he's put everything in someone else's hands, he needs to come up with a different plan. Next, Logan goes into his father's study and tells him that he wants to join the Knights training, and it appears that he accepts this request. On the Knights training grounds, Captain Heinkel makes Logan presences known to the other Knights, telling them that he will be joining the training from now on. It appears that the Knights don't take this news lightly, chattering to each other, thinking that Logan might take the Knight's order as a joke since he won against Dominion. A memory of the captain appears, setting him in the Patriarch's chamber, where they talk about Logan joining the order, and the captain doesn't seem to be happy about it. He indeed tells Patrick that if Logan joins the order, the Knights won't be happy. However, Patrick tells Heinkel that he's not asking for preferential treatment, and actually tells him to grill Logan through and through as he would foe to any rookie knight. In the present, Heinkel thinks that even though Patrick asked him that, he is still the Lord's son, and that it would have been easier if Patrick had asked him to treat Logan nicely. Logan sees the captain worried and tells him not to worry, as if he falls behind on any single training drill of the Knight's order during the next week, then he'll just pretend this never happened and get out of Heinkel's way. Heinkel is shocked by this and agrees with Logan. Upon hearing this, he decides that for the next week, the Knight's order training will be at triple the difficulty level. Next, a knight is seen carrying one of his peers on the back while running and wondering what the hell kind of training is this. Heinkel shouts at his pupils not to die on him and tells them that they are cavalry knights and they cannot be oblivious to what it feels like to be a horse. He tells them to feel what it feels like to be the horse that carries them through the battlefield while he's fully armored. The knights realize that this is the reason for which they have been training in full armor, and also say that all this is happening because of that damn troublemaker. They speculate for how long Logan might last with this training. A day, 2, or maybe 3. However, they all might be wrong as Bro is running at full speed storming through the crowd, leaving everyone astounded, even the captain, and to top it all off, he's also smiling while doing that. Heinkel is furious, thinking that at this rate, it will be the knights that fall behind instead of Logan. That being said, he tells everyone to stop and take a 10-minute break. He then goes on to ask Logan how's doing and asks if he is tired after that run. However, what he is actually thinking is that it's obviously tiring, and that all Logan's gotta do is give him an honest answer and he can ditch this crazy-ass training. but he doesn't get to finish his thought as Logan cuts in and tells him that it's doable, leaving Heinkel stunned. He asks Logan what he means, and Logan replies that it's great training, and if knights go through this every day, there's no way they're not strong. He then tells Heinkel that he looks forward to the next training, while two grounds on the ground look like they're about to give up. Heinkel thinks that this isn't what he was going for, and Logan once again looks unbothered. Late in the night, Logan looks around to find himself alone on the training grounds and says that all of the knights must have returned home. He then goes on to reflect on his thoughts, thinking that training with the knights is his insurance policy, in case all of his plans fail, saying that if that happens, he'll join the knights and fight on the front line, so he might as well start hanging with them now and try to form a bond. Another reason for which he is doing this is his strength, as he can develop his force through meditation. But what is also important is to train his body. That's where the knight's order comes in handy, and just as he thought, as his force core is growing, he doesn't feel fatigued. He picks up his sword, and in one quick slash, he releases a slash of force, thus demonstrating his power. He thinks of how he has all this force, and it's just from a 1-star core, and thinks that once he reaches 2 stars, he'll have the power to rival a high-ranking knight like his father. In the morning, he tests crossbows, deeming all of them failures, and asks Hamar if this is all he can do. He then inquires about the thread he ordered, and says that this thing can only shoot 1 round, and he's not seeing the magazine either, and tells Hamar that it needs to be integrated. Hamar is furious, and Logan goes on to apologize, saying that he went a bit too far, to which Hamar replies that he is right, and even if Logan is his master, he should never insult a craftsman's pride. However, what Logan actually means is that if this is really Hamar's best, then there is nothing they can do about it, making him pop a vein. Logan goes on to say that maybe he expected too much of him since it's been weeks of work and there's nothing he managed to do right, thus Logan is at fault here. He taunts Hamar even more by telling him that he judged him incorrectly, saying that he was wrong and that he spent all that money on him for nothing. This motivates Hamar and tells Logan that he needs 1 more month and that he will come back in 1 month with something worth Logan's while, and furiously crushes the crossbow in his hand. Logan looks at Hamar as he leaves and thinks of how angry he got and about how that made him start all again from scratch, and then puts on a gruesome smile, wondering if Hamar will come up with something amazing if he grills him more. 1 month later, on one of the training grounds, Hamar demonstrates the power of his new and improved crossbow, which shoots 2 arrows at once. Hamar's invention leaves Logan stunned, and Hamar goes on to say that even though it has 1 less shot than Logan originally asked for, this one is easier to hold in one hand and you can change magazines. Logan, however, is amazed at how it only took him 2 seconds to load and fire, and thinks that it has less effective range than the weapon in his previous life, and it's smaller. But for a mounted soldier, this one's much better, or actually it's outperforming, and he can't believe that they've already got so far, and they are still months away from the war between the fiefs. Hamar asks Logan if he is listening to him, and Logan picks Hamar up and tells him what a wonderful job he has done, continuing to boast about the dwarves, and wishing long life to Hamar and the dwarves. Hamar, however, is not as happy as Logan, since he thinks that someone might see them, and tells Logan that he is not a kid wishing to be put down. Logan peacefully looks into Hamar's eyes, prepared to ask him a question, and when Hamar asks what is it, Logan slips back into his psychotic self and tells Hamar that he needs 400 of these in 2 months. Next, Logan has given Kaisalan and the other mercenaries the crossbows, and they're all amazed by how far the dart goes, and by the fact that they shoot consecutive shots as well. Kaisalan looks down at the invention and asks himself, how could this be possible? How could a crossbow even do such a thing? A muzzle-loading crossbow of this range, power, and speed. With this, an army of 300 or more mounted troops could do such things that Kaisalan shudders just at the thought of it. Kaisalan then proceeds to tell Logan that he is truly amazing, and realizes that this was Logan's plan all along, and Logan tells him that he is correct. Logan goes on to think that Hamar went through quite a hard time. Even though Logan had extra craftsmen assist him, he never expected him to complete the order 2 months ahead of schedule and even make 100 extra crossbows, as expected of an expert-ranked dwarf. He is obviously superior. Logan says that he'd also like to share this with the knights and soldiers, but there is the issue of funds and the possible leak of technology, so he should hold off on that for now. Logan tells Kaisalan to equip the mercenaries with crossbows and clear out the monsters from outside the territory, but Kaisalan thinks that is impossible. However, Logan is sure they can do it. Kaisalan tells Logan that it might be possible, but Logan isn't satisfied with this, and tells Kaisalan to make it possible because if he can't do that, everything else is meaningless. Kaisalan thinks that Logan wouldn't have made a weapon like this to subjugate monsters, and realizes that Logan is preparing for war. At the knight's training session, one knight comments on what tremendous stamina Logan has, and someone else asks if that ridiculous physical ability is genetic, to which some other knight says that if Logan is anything like the patriarch, he must be good with a sword. Then they comment about Logan's fight with Dominon, and one of the knights tells the other he shouldn't even dare to compare this kid to the old man, as Logan even lost to his little brother before awakening. However, despite that, it's kinda amazing how he has been consistently enduring the training for over a month. The training that was initially designed to drive Logan away now solidified as the new symbol of the Knight's Order. It is tiring, but it's way more rewarding than just running, and this feels like the right level of training fitting for a Knight's Order. It became an unexpected stimulus for the low-rank knights who had been taking it easy in the training. And also, the knights began to truly understand and empathize with their horses, and the bonds among the knights were strengthened as well. Heinkel thinks that he merely persisted with the training since the first young master wouldn't quit, but he can't believe all these results. His lucky charm walked in on his own 2 feet. At night, in his room, Logan thinks that after pushing his body hard with training, he will stimulate his internal consciousness with meditation. Therefore, the iterations are synergizing with each other, and he's making solid progress. And lately, he's been seeing signs of a shift in the Force. If he can improve his martial powers as per his expectations, he can surpass all the monsters he saw in his previous life. That's when something unexpected happens. Logan's core grows. Logan starts saying some gibberish, and Logan's core becomes a 2-star core. Logan says that now he has the basics to learn the next secret technique of the sword secrets, Iron Slash, Killer Iron Slash. Just considering the power that the first technique gave him, he is sure the second technique will be far more powerful than expected. And if he can just master that technique before the war, even a high-ranking knight wouldn't scare him. Next, Kaisalon and the other mercenaries are hunting a pack of goblins. His troops shoot the goblins, killing them instantaneously, and remarking upon how there's hardly any recoil on those crossbows, and one guy says that his dart went through one guy's head and plunged into the head of another guy behind him. Logan thinks that the swarm of over 100 monsters was wiped out in under 10 seconds, and thinks that the mercenaries' old habits of using basic crossbows have been broken quite a bit, and that they're much faster at changing the magazines, and tells himself that it was worth the effort to come for the hunt so far into the territory. Kaisalon asks Logan if he is satisfied, and Logan tells him that he is somewhat satisfied, and remarks how they were a complete mess during the first monster hunt, but they've gotten so much better. After that, Kaisalon asks Logan why he is doing all of these preparations, saying that he's never heard of a mercenary army with this much firepower, and asks Logan if he is planning on slaying monsters all over the continent. However, Logan does not get to answer Kaisalon as a mounted rider rushes to get a message from Rick through to Logan. It appears that yesterday Viscount Tesseron declared war against the House of McLain. In the McLain war room, Patrick and the other higher-ups of the family are looking through a crystal ball as Viscount Tesseron states that, for the grudge of his ancestor over his wrongful death, he blames the House of McLain, leaving Patrick stunned. Some nobles char, asking themselves if what he's saying makes cause for war. Heinkel and Marion ask Patrick what he's going to do, and Heinkel continues by stating that just the Knight's Order of Viscount Tesserons has numerous more soldiers than they do, and even with Patrick on the battlefield, the chances of winning are slim. That's when one of the other nobles comes up with the idea that they should choose to guard the city and call reinforcements. However, this is a bad idea, as if that happens, the knights who can use force will be pushed, and the inside of the city will be a complete chaos, while some other guy proposes sending an envoy to propose peace. Patrick outbursts into a fit of rage, tells everyone to shut up, and goes on to explain that even if the royal family's authority isn't as strong as it used to be, these people just instantly declared war without even asking for permission, so it's crystal clear that they've planned this out. Therefore, peace is completely out of the question. He tells everyone to prepare for war, and tells his generals to come up with a plan for victory, as he will not tolerate any dissent. After all this, in the tense atmosphere, some noble asks Patrick if the young master Logan will also go to war, to which Patrick replies affirmatively. Marion goes on to say that Ranyan's force has awakened, and Logan is of age as well, so he should do his part as well. Hearing this, Rick realizes Logan is not at the castle, so he rushes to send an envoy to inform him. After being put up to speed, Logan thinks that based on the memories from his past life, the war wasn't supposed to start for another 2 months, and wonders what could possibly had hasted the War of the Fiefs. The envoy rushes Logan to hurry, as apparently the Viscount is breaking very custom and has got on the move right after declaring war, so Logan must hurry to at least make it in the middle of the war. Kaisalon and the others shout that the Logan mercenary troops are ready any time, and seeing this, Logan tells Kaisalon how he doesn't appear to be too surprised about this situation, to which Kaisalon replies that for a mercenary, if there is no war, they want to start one. He continues by saying that they've got their hands on a great weapon, so it's natural that they'd want to use it. Logan looks at his army and says that these guys are much too confident, but doesn't think much about it and says that what they are feeling is valid, as they've trained hard the past months, and overwhelmingly massacred the monster flocks, and goes on to say that it doesn't matter when the war starts, because all they've got to do is win. He thinks that they've got enough combat power right now, so he commands his troops to march for the McLain Plains, certain that this war will conclude in a victory. Back at the barony, the war began sooner than the McLains thought. The day after the declaration of war, Tesrin's troops showed up at the McLain estate, and their numbers exceeded the vassals' expectations. Captain Heinkel informs Patrick that the Viscount's army is formed of 100 knights alone, over 1,000 normal troops, and almost 10,000 conscripts, telling the Patriarch that it's an all-out war. Hearing this, Patrick thinks that Tesrin has gone mad. He's not just clashing with a main force of knights, who are basically superhuman for the average person in this battle, but he's also using conscripts in a war not even between nations, but in a simple domestic fiefdom war, thus making Patrick ask himself, why is Haman, the Viscount, going so far? And it looks like the bad news just keeps on coming. As next, the captain informs Patrick that the House of Kiros has informed them that they will not be sending any troops, leaving both Patrick and Marion speechless. Marion tries to argue that this situation is not possible and that it must be a mistake. She goes on to think that both Mr. Duane and herself checked with them and everything was set out to be fine, and that this wouldn't happen. Left with no choice, Patrick tells Heinkel to gather all men who can carry a weapon, saying that they will respond to this attack with full force. Patrick thinks how their trusted Kairos has turned their backs on them, and so backed into a corner. McLain gathered as many men as he could to fight against Tesron, and thus gathered 53 knights, 552 regular troops, and 4,418 conscripts, for a total of 5,023 troops. But this force wasn't even half the numbers of the Tesron's army. On the battlefield, two soldiers chat, and one of them asks about where is the first young master, Logan, to which the other replies that he went out a long while ago and hasn't come back yet. Some other soldiers comment that he probably won't come back and that he must have run away after hearing the news. Hearing this, Runyon turns around and asks them, what are they talking about? Telling them that there is no way Logan would do that. He thinks that Logan already expected this war to happen, and that's why he taught him this secret move, and that there is no way he'd run away. Some other soldiers hear what Runyon said, and begin to think that the rumors are true, that the son of the fief's lord ran away. After this, Patrick is seen standing next to Runyon, and he tells his younger son that he must play the role of his brother on his behalf, and tells him not to waver at any cost. He goes on to think that he does not want to believe these rumors, but that doesn't matter right now, as the only thing that matters is the winning of the war. So he commands all of his troops to charge forward and crush those scums attacking their home. Next, Tesron is seen with a smirk on his face, thinking that Patrick has drawn his sword at last, saying that his knights are his sword, and shouts at Patrick to face them. Patrick charges his attack with aura and tries to break through the vanguard, but he doesn't manage to, as a knight with a shield blocks his attack, leaving Patrick astounded. Rick is discovered to be on the battlefield as well, and he doesn't appear to be enjoying himself very much since he witnesses people being slain and torn apart in front of his very eyes. Rick reflects on how they are losing this fight, how they were forced to send out servants like him because of their extreme disadvantage, and how, no matter what, they will lose if they get caged where they are. As he is thinking so, he is struck in the head by a Tesron army member who is about to kill him, but he manages to avoid the blow, and an ally soldier saves him by killing the enemy and instructing him to get back up and prepare his spear. Rick reaches out and grabs his hand, attempting to express his gratitude for saving him, but before he can do so, an enemy knight murders his comrade and splatters blood all over Rick's face. Rick understands that his only chance of surviving is to flee as far behind the enemy as he can. Suddenly, mounted soldiers charge toward him as he passes between the bodies of both his allies and adversaries. Rick knows that they have also been surrounded from behind, and fears that this may be the place where they will all perish. While fighting the knights who halted his onslaught, Patrick's adversary assures him that he lives up to his name, and that they have made several preparations, but he still finds it hard to trust his condition. While observing him, Patrick considers how this man resisted his deadly blows that also contained force, and how he was surprised Tesron also had a high-ranking knight. He continues, reasoning that the other knights must be at least intermediate rank knights, and wonders if this explains why they do not fear him. Patrick asks them if they are the ones prepared to deal with him, to which the other knight replies by asking Patrick how he likes the preparations. Seeing that he is surrounded by 4 knights, he thinks that if he gets blocked there, so will the knight's order, and so he picks up his sword and charges toward his enemy, vowing that this will never happen. He clenches swords with the high-ranking knight, but he is attacked by some other guy from behind with a spear, yet luckily for him, he manages to dodge it. Seeing that everyone is just attacking him from all directions, Patrick asks them if they have any honor as knights, and calls them bastards for fighting dirty. However, they don't seem to know the word, let alone care about it, and one of them even says that this is his last struggle before dying, so they should just let him be. Once again, Patrick charges full force ahead, clenching swords with one of his opponents, yet this time he's not so lucky, as he gets stabbed through the back of his stomach with a spear, leaving him gravely wounded. He goes on to think that while the high-ranking knight blocks his attacks, the others jump and attack him, an obvious trap, yet there is no way to escape it. And as the enemy even managed to take the rear, he thinks that Logan did well to run away, and staring his defeat in the face, he states his hopes that at least maybe Logan will be able to continue his family's legacy. As Tesrin looks from the distance at the battle between Patrick and the knights, he thinks that it was a smart, good choice not to let the word spread that he has a high-ranking knight at his disposal, as now, all he has to do is have Patrick crushed and to take over the McLain castle. He is about to continue his thought, but he hears a strange noise from behind. It is the sound of cavalry troops, and a servant comes to inform him that they've spotted a unit of cavalry troops in the rear, approaching the battlefield, around 300 of them or more. Tesrin thinks about this, and asks the soldier who came to inform him if the McLains had any other troops they didn't know of, to which the soldier replies that what's peculiar is the fact that cavalrymen are not even carrying spears, but instead, the only weapons they have are small crossbows. Hearing this, Lord Tesron bursts into laughter, asking if by crossbows he means the weapons that the hunters use, and tells the soldier to get the rear soldiers and archers to get rid of them, as they are no elite troops, just some trash soldiers. As he says that though, an arrow flies through the head of his soldier, making Tesrin shit his armor. It appears that Logan has joined the battle, and he is really pissed to see what is happening on the battlefield, so he gives his mercenaries the order to fire, raining arrows on the Tesron's army. The arrows of the mercenaries pierce the Tesron knights, decimating hundreds within seconds, slashing through shields and flesh alike. One soldier thinks of how all those who didn't ready their shields are dead, and how he would have been one of them if he were to be 1 second late. The archers of the Tesron are prepared to fire their arrows toward Logan's troops. However, they don't reach, as their bows are too weak, and so the mercenaries fire once again, killing more and more of the Viscount's soldiers. Seeing this, Tesrin wonders how this could happen, acknowledging that the rear has turned into chaos in seconds, and Logan's mercenaries didn't even use magic, just those damn crossbows. So he asks himself what the hell kind of weapon Patrick has made. He shouts for the cavalrymen, ordering all of them to get to the rear and catch those bastards. The cavalry is rushing towards Logan's troops, and Logan couldn't be more thrilled to see this, as he says they're coming to him on their own. Next, a fight between Ranyan and some other knight seems to be afoot. Ranyan dodges an attack, and his enemy tells him that he did a good job, trying to mock him. Two enemy soldiers start fighting, one of them telling the other to stop toying with this kid, as the battle is taking a strange turn, but the other replies that he's doing his best, and that Ranyan, even though a kid, is not to be underestimated. Hearing all of this, Ranyan thinks that he gets it now. After he's been exposed to an actual battle and not just sparring, he realizes that he's not actually a genius, but a simple kid who had his awakening. Regardless of that fact, he cannot lose, as there is too much at stake. Ranyan thinks of his father, and how he counted on him to do Logan's part as well in this war, and then says that he cannot crumble down there, no matter what. As he thinks about this, an opportunity arises that Ranyan notices instantly. He sees one of the soldiers with their backs turned, and asks himself why the hell would they do that, and thinks that whatever the reason, this is an opportunity that he cannot lose. So he swings the sword in one long stroke and slashes through the body of the soldier. He does so easily that even he remains stunned. Then he notices the arrows on the soldier's chest, and when he raises his head, he's happy to see his brother, shouting his name aloud. However, this happiness only lasts for a second, as the other cavalrymen storm from behind Ranyan toward Logan, trying to attack them at the Viscount's command. Seeing this, Logan remarks upon the kite shield formation the cavalry have adopted, saying that it's a remarkable defense formation, but that wouldn't stop him, as his evil plan is just now revealed. Logan instructs his soldiers to aim their crossbows diagonally toward the ground, leaving them to question Logan's judgment once again. That is, until Logan once again shows his psychotic smile and tells the mercenaries to aim for the horses. Bro is really playing every dirty trick in the book to win this war. Upon hearing this, the mercenaries are thrilled, sharing the same killer smile as Logan, and so a rain of arrows falls down on the cavalrymen's horses, leaving all the soldiers on the ground. Logan goes on to think that it appears he was there in time to be able to help Ranyan, but there's still the matter of his father. He thinks about how he vowed to save his family in this life, and how there is no point in winning the battle if he loses his family. Thus, he gives Kaisalan the command and rushes for his father. Seeing this, Kaisalan tells Logan that this was not the plan, and worries about what might happen. He thinks that victory is right in front of them, and wonders why would Logan try to get himself killed like that. He goes on to think that even if he's stronger than him, if he runs into an intermediate rank knight, things might not work in his favor anymore. Castellan finally takes command and tells everyone to cover Logan as he rushes through the enemy troops. Patrick is still dueling the high-ranking knight, and it looks like he might be losing. The high-ranking knight tells Patrick that he can't believe he ran at him even though he knew he would get stabbed. Patrick manages to dodge his attack in the last second and then jumps back to create some distance. He realizes that something is strange in the way his enemies have started to fight. They are all pushing themselves and basically throwing themselves at him, and Patrick wonders why are they so desperate when they have the upper hand. Once again, he manages to pair the two spears that are coming toward him, and in the next second, Logan jumps in front of his father, defeating two of the intermediate rank soldiers in a split second, leaving Patrick to wonder what has happened. Patrick goes on to think that he saw Logan coming with the mercenary corps from behind the enemy, but he's sure that place is pretty far off from where they are now, and as he's turning his head to look to the back, he wonders how Logan got all the way there through so many enemies. What he sees leaves him in shock, as behind him there's a sea of corpses, and wonders if Logan was the one to take all of them down. Patrick wants to ask his son how he got so strong, but says that this is not important right now, and that he doesn't understand what's going on. Instead, he asks if the fact that Logan is here means that they have the upper hand, to which Logan replies affirmatively. Upon hearing this, Patrick rests his hand on Logan's shoulder and tells him that he did a good job. The high-ranking knight is looking at Logan and wonders if he saw what happened right, how a mere 20-year-old country bumpkin pushed off to intermediate rank knights at the same time. He thinks that he was toiling to death at that age to become a knight, but none of that matters now, as he is going to kill Logan right then and there, and then he commands his fallen comrades to get back into position. Seeing what just happened, Patrick thinks that the attack Logan used was just enough to tell him that Logan might not be a high-ranking knight, but he is strong enough to handle most intermediate rank knights, and thinks that if Logan takes on the intermediate rank knights, and he tails on the high-ranking knight, they might have a chance to win. However, this is not going to happen, as Logan throws his hand in front of his father, and tells him that he will face the high-ranking knight alone. Patrick tells Logan that it's too much for him, and even though he acknowledges his progress, he's still a high-ranking knight. Patrick doesn't get to finish his sentence, as Logan punches him in the guts and makes him fall to the ground. Logan tells Patrick that in this state even he could win against him, and asks his father to have trust and leave this up to him, to which Patrick reluctantly agrees. He tells Logan to be careful, to which he replies that they should be quick and end this. The high-ranking knight is stunned to see Logan come at him instead of Patrick, and gets annoyed thinking how a whelp like him would even dare something like that. Logan storms through the battlefield, charging his force, and clenches swords with his opponent, pushing him a couple of meters behind with just one attack, leaving him stunned. The knight goes on to wonder how could this be possible, since even with his wounds, he doesn't sense any remarkable power from him or a high level. Yet the fact that he's being overpowered could only mean one thing, that Logan is pushing himself way too hard, and as he prepares to rush towards Logan thinks that otherwise, none of it makes sense. He attacks Logan with murderous intent, and they jump a couple of times from one place to another, dodging each other's hits. As their swords are clenched once again, the knight thinks that only if he wasn't injured, he would get the upper hand and kill Logan. But as he's thinking that, Logan sees an opportunity and manages to slash through his opponent, hurting him, and in a second, he jumps back to avoid a counterattack. Looking at this scene, the knight thinks that there isn't even a single opening and that he needs to grab a chance to attack him. He seems to notice something that Logan also acknowledges. The force from Logan's sword is absorbed into his and thinks that this is also an opening, and says that Logan fell for it. He prepares to attack Logan, and it appears that his attack will land this time since Logan has lost his center of gravity. However, this is not the case, as next Logan gets back on his feet, leaving the knight to wonder if he's too slow. Next, Logan is charging his aura again, prepared to use his sacred technique, and seeing this, the knight says that he needs to get away quickly. Logan reveals a slashing wave of force, killing his enemy instantaneously and leaving everyone around him astounded by what just happened. Then he goes on to shout that he, Logan McLain, has killed the enemy general of the Tesseron army. Hearing this, the Tesseron soldiers get scared shitless, wondering how could the high-ranking knight fall, as they don't even see the Viscount's flag anymore. They start dropping their swords on the ground and ask to be taken as surrendering prisoners. Rick starts chanting Logan's name, wishing good health to his master, and everyone follows his example. The Viscount, however, seems to be fleeing the battlefield, asking himself where did it all go wrong, and saying that he prepared a whole 3 years for this battle, how he even asked for help from other nobles and gathered 100 knights, and that damn Ginger with his cavalrymen and their weapons have ruined everything for him. He thinks that he should get back to his territory first. That way at least he'll make it out alive. As he gets to his castle, he orders the guards to open the gates, and they're stunned to see him there. As this is happening, another guard sees something in the distance and states that they are cavalrymen, with Logan at their command. Seeing this, Tessorn shits himself. Logan gets down from his horse and tells the Viscount that he was pretty quick to run away, and then as he stands before the gates of the Viscount territory, he shouts for everyone to hear that Tesrin lost the war, and then commands the garrison to open the gates and receive the true winner of this war. Looking down on the scene, the soldiers on the walls ask themselves if this is really true, and think that this might be why the Viscount came back in such a rush. However, a general shouts at them, asking if they are cowering after hearing the enemy's words, and they get back to their senses. He goes on to say that there are only a little over 300 enemies, and as Logan is charging his aura once more, he goes on to say that they cannot be defeated by siege by such a small force. The soldiers guarding the gates ask what the hell is Logan doing, and Logan leaps above the tens of meters tall wall and tells the general to open the gates unless they all have a death wish, in which case he'll kill them all and open the gates himself. Inside the palace, Tesron is gathering his most valuable belongings and money, and thinks that he should at least take some gold coins with him. Logan shouts at Teston from behind that he's finally got him. Falling on his back, Tessorn asks Logan how he got in there, to which Logan replies that his servants gave it away even before he had a chance to put his blade to work, and that this is saying something about his reputation as a lord of this fief. Seeing this, Tessorn is furious, asking himself how could his own servants sell him out. Then he goes back to being a little bitch, and tells Logan he wants to surrender, and that he'll compensate him with whatever reparation and share as per the convention of fiefdom wars, and begs Logan to spare his life and his family. Hearing this, Logan mockingly asks him about the conventions, and then looks down on him, saying that he does not have the right to bring up any of the conventions, as he announced a war out of nowhere and just barged in within a day. Logan is pissed, and with a vein on his forehead popping, he asks Tesron if he even has a conscience. Tesron still tries to appeal to Logan, saying that he must maintain the honor of the nobles, and that all prisoners captured in fiefdom wars are guaranteed their lives by the conventions. Logan agrees to those terms and says that he will respect the honor and customs of his own house, the House of McLain, so he'll grant Tesron his life and give him time and permission to take a certain amount of wealth and leave. Hearing this, Tesron wants to thank him. However, Logan interrupts him and says that if he were his father, would indeed do all that. He then says that Patrick is a man of honor, so much so that he'd accept a surrender without any conditions whatsoever. Then Logan notices a diamond-encrusted knife in a chest behind Tesron, and as he picks it up, he remarks upon its beauty. Tesron urges Logan to take the knife, saying that it has been made by the best craftsman in the kingdom. Hearing this, Logan denies Tesron's gift and tells him that he should take the knife with him and sticks it right through his chest. In his dying breath, Tesron tells Logan that he's a liar, as he promised him that he would spare his life, to which Logan replies that he never said that. Instead, he just remarked on what his father would have done. However, unfortunately for him, Logan is not at all like his father. Tesron wants to murmur something about the honor of the nobles, and Logan shuts him up by asking if he knows how many people died because of his greed, and tells Tesron to end his filthy life right there. Tesron falls lifeless on the ground, and Logan looks at him and thinks of how Tesron should thank God that he died such a simple death. As he makes a fist with Tesron's blood, he huffs and says that finally they are past the crisis, and he says that he has to wrap things up. To do that, he shouts that Viscount Haemon Tesron has ended his own life, and thinks that this should be enough. Just as he's finished, Kaisalon enters the room and tells Logan that he should take a look at the castle's underground prison. A few days later, on the outside walls of the Viscount Tesron's castle, Logan and Patrick are talking. Patrick tells Logan that he came straight to the Tesron castle as soon as he recovered. He asks Logan about the suicide of Haemon. Logan acknowledges this fact and says that Lord Tesron must have been in great despair to do such a thing. However, Patrick doesn't buy this and asks Logan if he killed Tesron. He then gets really close to his face. For some reason, they both look like they are mewing. Logan comes clean and says that he indeed deliberately killed Tesron, arguing that they must bring the Tesron fief back into their hands, and tells his father that he doesn't want to leave their bloodline alive to create future trouble. Hearing this, Patrick looks at his son and greets him, saying that he's an adult and that he must have had his reason. He then goes on to tell Logan that no matter what anyone says, he played the greatest part in this battle and thanks him. Hearing this makes Logan happy, and he looks toward his father with a great old smile. "Good job, big boy." Patrick blushes and tries to clear his throat and give Logan even more good news. Patrick goes on to tell his son that he'll be named the official heir to the House of McLain. Logan is happy to hear this, so he nods, with a smile on his face, and tells his father that he's sorry and that he'll have to refuse. After hearing this, Patrick remains stunned and asks Logan why he'd do such a thing. Is it because he's worried about his reputation? If that is the case, then Patrick reassures Logan that his feats in this battle are enough to turn it around. However, Logan says that this is not the reason, leaving his father to wonder. Logan goes on to say that since the McLains are a family of knights, Reincaneted would be far more fit for the position. He then tells his father that Reincaneted became a force user at the mere age of 14, which is 4 years faster than him. There's no telling what kind of feats he can achieve when he comes of age. Hearing all of this, Patrick is left speechless. However, he argues that even if what he says is true, your martial ability doesn't make you the lord of a family. Logan goes on to think that this may be the case according to the common knowledge of today. But if Reincaneted receives the title of the youngest force user of the continent, like in his previous life, there won't be any problem whatsoever. And more importantly than that, there is no benefit to Logan becoming the successor. Neither does he want to waste his time to be the next Baron. Logan tells Patrick that as the older brother, he would like to give his younger brother a chance. So he hopes that his father will wait until Reincaneted comes of age to choose his successor. Patrick replies that he didn't think Logan would be so mindful of his brother, and tells him that he will accept his wish and push the selection of the heir to 5 years from now, when Reincaneted becomes an adult. And hearing this, Logan thanks his father. However, that being said, Patrick will still grant Logan another reward. They will go back to the McLain and calculate the exploits from this war, which will probably come out to a few 100,000 gold. Yet it seems that Logan already has something in mind for his reward. Next, a guard shouts for the gates to be opened as the knights of the McLain have returned. The people of the city remark on how they've returned within only a week of the war, and how they've heard that the war has ended in just 1 day. 2 guys begin to speak, and one of them wonders how that is even possible, and asks if their knights were always that strong toe, which the other guy replies by asking him if he heard the rumors, that it's all thanks to the first young master, Logan McLain. He goes on to say that according to the soldiers who came back first, young Master Logan's mercenaries turned the battle around. They jumped out from behind the enemies as if they knew it would happen. Another guy comments that they've annihilated the enemies with some mysterious weapon, and that Logan has even taken down a high-ranking knight all alone. Then a girl asks if the young master was always such a great person, to which some other guy says that he always thought that Logan was just fooling around here and there. The citizens begin to wonder that maybe he has bought all that monster meat in the past for a good reason, and that he must have had a bigger picture in mind. The crowd begins to theorize that maybe Logan was just acting all this time, and they get goosebumps over it. They even begin to praise Logan, saying that prodigies are simply on another level. Thanks to the fact that he is now a mana user, Logan hears everything, and says that it is so embarrassing to hear people talking like that about him. Even Reincaneted goes on to ask him how it feels for everyone to praise him, and Logan replies that all that is doing is making him red in the face, and tells his brother not to overdo it. But Reincaneted tells his brother this is impossible, as everything he says is true, and that Logan should smile at the people, since they are so glad to see him. Logan thinks about it, and seeing all those excited faces, he decides to go for it, and gives them a killer smile. Literally, he looks like he's trying to keep the poop in until he manages to get to the castle. He's quite frankly fancy pants Rich McGee, or maybe Medusa, as they all turn to stone after seeing Logan's smile, making all of them believe that Logan wants to chop their heads off with his thumb. Yet Logan doesn't understand what he's done wrong, and Reincaneted just pities him. Patrick turns his head to look at Logan, and he appears to be really proud, as next, he shouts that the next praises should be for the champion of this war, and to begin the grand welcome. Long live McLain! Long live young Master Logan! Next, the grounds of the castle are shown, and Logan strolls through the court, thinking that a welcome ceremony lasting till the morning is impressive, especially for people who just got back from war. However, his happiness is short-lived, as his mother shouts at him from behind and asks him what is he scheming. Reincaneted pulls on her mother's arm, trying to stop her, but Marion goes on to say that she has heard everything and asks Logan if he's really rejected becoming the successor, and what in the hell is he plotting, as he might have fooled the others, but she doesn't fall in that category. Reincaneted tries to de-escalate the conflict and tells Logan that the matter with the Kairoses really affected Marion, but Logan tells him everything is okay. He turns back to Marion and thinks that despite her long-lasting resentment, right now she's lost all real power because Kiros betrayed her, and she can no longer be a threat to him. He goes on to think that as long as he's doing this right now, she might accept his apology sincerely. He acknowledges to Marion that his actions in the past few months were not at all trustworthy, and that he too is even regretful of his actions that were driven by jealousy and inferiority. Hearing this, Marion shouts at Reincaneted that she was right, as Logan even admitted it himself that it was all his plan. However, Reincaneted interrupts her and once again begs her to stop. He apologizes to Logan once more and tells him that she's not normal right now. However, Logan doesn't seem to care much about Marion, as next he appeals to Reincaneted and tells him to listen carefully, because he's actually the one who deserves an apology. Reincaneted is stunned to hear that, and asks Logan what he means by that. Logan goes on to say that he's been apologizing to him ever since he came back, but he could never say exactly what for. It seems that the regrets and cowardly nature he's built up over the years weren't so easy to overcome. Runyan asks his brother what on earth he means, yet Logan implies that Runyan already knows what he's talking about, that for the past years Logan actually detested Runyan. Logan goes on to say that he tried to avoid his own incompetence by hating Runyan, and that right now he genuinely regrets those pathetic years of his existence, and asks Runyan to allow for a formal and genuine apology. Logan bows down his head and tells his brother he is sorry. After all this, Runyan looks at his brother without saying anything, and Logan, still staring down, thinks that ultimately, your wrongdoings can't just be covered up by your good deeds, and says that he is just as naive as ever. Runyan finally breaks the silence and tells Logan that everything is okay, and Logan is stunned to hear that. Runyan goes on to say that he believed that as long as he was nice to Logan, even when Logan was cold towards him, someday the brother he knew would return, and smiled at Logan. I'm not gonna lie to you all, this is enough to make a grown man cry. Logan is happy, and wonders if maybe he hesitated to do something this easy for this long. He then goes on to speak to his mother. Logan tells Marion that he genuinely cares for Runyan, and that he honestly hopes for Runyan to become the successor. He goes on to say that he knows well that asking Marion to trust him immediately is a hard favor to ask, so he instead asks her to keep watching him, as everything he does going forward is for the greater good of the family. And as Marion leaves, Logan thinks that this apology should suffice for now. Next, in some forest, Logan and Hamar walk together, and Hamar asks Logan where on earth are they going right after returning from war, but Logan tells Hamar he had enough rest, and it's about time to get back to work, to which Hamar replies that he's only anxious about the task, and murmurs that he's actually anxious about how Logan is going to squeeze everything he's got in him this time. But Logan assures Hamar he will definitely enjoy this task, but Hamar is reluctant, thinking Logan has no idea what he's talking about. They stop in a clearing, both looking in the distance, and Hamar seems to be stunned. It appears that Logan wants to develop a mine. Next, the conversation from Tesron Barony is completed, and Patrick goes on to tell us what Logan wants as his reward. It appears that what he wanted is the chance to develop the hill near Tesron's border. Patrick says that they may call that place a hill, but it's actually a wasteland, as there's nothing there, and he asks Logan why it has to be that place. But Logan just smirks, and says that there might be gold buried underneath that wasteland. It seems that the real reason for which Tesron forcefully started a war came to light a year after the war ended. Tesron had begun exporting gold from a hill in the McLain territory they had taken over. The gold from that mine alone made Tesron far more influential than the average Count family. That was until Reincaneted McLain massacred their family in revenge. In the underground prison of the Tesron Barony, Kaisalan says there are a few peculiar people there, so he thinks Logan should have a look. One of the prisoners states that they didn't do anything bad to get imprisoned, just what the Count asked, to bring gold from the mine as they were hired to, yet the Viscount locked them up anyway. Logan places his hand on his face in disbelief, thinks how stupid Tesron was, and doesn't believe he locked up 5 of those precious mine specialists. Seeing this, one of the prisoners asks Logan if he's getting mad on their behalf. But what's actually happening is that the businessman inside him came to light, and Logan thinks that he has found a way to some unexpected profit. The old man looks at Logan and wonders what even is the deal with this guy. We all wonder, Pops. Logan goes on to think that they've won in the Fief War against Tesron, but that is the equivalent to barely making it past a small wave. If invasion by the Empire led to the collapse of the nation in the final hurdle, the event that will happen after 1 year will be the downfall of the nation. That is the death of the present king, Samuel von Grandia. The king's sudden death led to a clash over the crowd among 3 princes, leading to a 3-year-long civil war that drastically reduced the kingdom's forces. Before the kingdom could recover, the Empire invasion began. Actually, it was the first cause that led to the downfall of the kingdom. Since McLain isn't part of a specific faction, maintaining neutral stance like this could leave them as a mere spectator. But Logan thinks this is an opportunity as well, and he can't just let it blow. He says that he's going to use that unrest to regain the country's past territories and become the Lord of the Southwest once again, and if possible end the Civil War, and something else. But just when Logan is about to say it, somebody interrupts him. Hamar is asking Logan what is he daydreaming about after calling him there, since he didn't even answer when he called out to him. Logan thinks that he didn't even realize it, and that he has to get his act together, as he barely got through a crisis just now. With the future in mind, he's got to build up forces as quickly as possible, but right now that's just going to sound like he's crazy. So no matter what, he's got to do it with his own money. That hill will become the cash cow to fund his endeavors. Logan tells his servants that there's gold in the middle of this hill, and he wants to dig it up to develop a mine, and asks them what is the estimated cost. His servants look mesmerized, and Hamar thinks that this is another ridiculous request. The old man thinks that Tesron was paying them a lot, so he agreed instantly, but a gold mine might be too much, and asks Logan if he's sure there's gold in there, to which Logan says that he is sure, and tells them he saw the gold, and the old man asks how that is possible. Logan tells them that this is a secret operation, so only the 6 people that are there will do the drilling, and hearing this, the old man thinks that Logan might want to kill them. The old man asks Logan how can just the 6 of them do the drilling, and tells him that he is being excessive. He wants to say that even with a dwarf this is just too much, but he doesn't finish the sentence and prays for Hamar to do it instead. But Hamar looks him in the eyes and says that he might as well be prepared to die, to sleep a little less and give up on living like a normal human, and seeing that look, the old man thinks he is screwed. Logan thinks that as expected of Hamar, he's got the mindset of a slave, or better said, of a worker. Logan says that now Hamar and the old man are ready to work, and once again asks to hear for the estimate. The old man tells Logan that they need to drill to get an estimate of the gold deposits inside the hill, but only the initial investment will have to be 5 million gold. Hamar also says that the safe development of the mine will take a long time, and just the preparation will take 6 months, and the full force mining will take another 6 months. Just as he thought, Logan says that it's going to take a lot of money and time, but this mine made Viscount Tesseron richer than other count families, and he needs to develop this mine at all costs. He argues that only if he were able to sell the monster meat right now, he would have enough money, but the effects of it will only become well known around 6 months from now. However, Logan realizes that maybe he doesn't need to wait, and that if he addresses its toxic nature, he can use it as medicine right away. He thinks that he has used neutralizing agents countless times when he was a mercenary, so he can make it as well. If he makes it himself and sells it, he will get a fortune. A week later, at the Southwest McLain Villa, Rick brings Logan the shady medicine made by grinding nightgrass, plot herbs, and leaky grass. Logan tells Rick not to call it shady, as it's only a neutralizing agent. Logan then asks where is the monster meat, and Rick tells him it's in the villa's warehouse just as he asked. Logan tells Rick that this is great, and that they're going to put the medicine in the monster meat. Hearing this, Rick goes crazy, and asks Logan if he has to go with him, and Logan tells him that of course he has, but it seems Rick is not so excited, and tells Logan that he's never been there, so he doesn't know what he's up against. Logan is annoyed and wonders why is this brat fussing so much all of a sudden, but then he suddenly understands. The smell is so bad it could even make a sewer look more favorable. Logan says that he knew it smelled bad, but this is making him want to throw up, and it seems that Rick is already at it. However, Logan finds a solution. He uses his aura to block the smell of the monster meat. After that, he is prepared to go in, and he tells Rick that they need to get started, but Rick is stunned to see Logan is okay, while he's still about to barf, and when he asks Logan about it, Logan tells him that he paralyzed his sense of smell using force. Rick calls Logan selfish, and Logan tells him that if it bothers him so much, he should awaken the force himself, and do whatever he pleases. Logan gives Rick a white powder that is the neutralizer, and tells him to sprinkle it on the meat. He tells him that he should sprinkle enough to make the outer layer look white, and the black part that's left is the poison, so he should be careful. After that, he needs to mince it finely, and make it into small balls. After he prepares a sample, he asks Rick if it looks like medicine, and he replies affirmatively. Logan goes on to say that they're going to sell this as medicine. Rick is going to be the one making it, so he needs to pay attention so he can remember it. Rick protests, and tells Logan he won't do that at any cost. Logan tells Rick that he's going to pay him 100 gold for each pill made, and that makes him change his mind. However, Logan is sad, because he thought he could get it done for free. Logan tells Rick that he needs to test how effective it is, and Rick asks what it's used for, and Logan tells him that it's a medicine that's good for men, but Rick doesn't understand what Logan means by that. Logan tells him that he's so frustrating, and that he'll explain it only once, so he should listen carefully. A picture of 2 rabbits appears, a male and a female. The male seems unhappy because he is weak and can't stir his little stick inside the pot, so the woman taps him on the shoulder and gives him a chill pill. The chill pill turns him into a super rabbit and makes his stick 4 times the size it was before, so he can better use it to stir the pot. After hearing this, Logan asks Rick if he understands, and he says that he's got it, and tells Logan that there's a perfect person for him to test that. Logan asks who that is, to which Rick replies that it's Mr. Dwayne. Next, Dwayne is seen knocking on the door of Logan's study, and he tells him to come in. Dwayne tells him that he's sorry to bother him, and that he heard Logan called for him. As he enters the study, Dwayne can't see where Logan went. That's until he appears like a Dracula behind Dwayne and scared the shit out of him, as he tells him he was waiting for him. Dwayne jumps back like a professional basketball player almost having a heart attack, and tells Logan that he can't just pop behind people out of nowhere. Logan gets close to Dwayne and tells him that he was just going to massage his shoulders, as he has been so tired these days from cleaning up matters after the war. But Dwayne says he is fine, and that Lord McLain is having a much harder time. Logan remarks on how he even collapsed because he is so low on energy, But Dwayne says this happened because Logan surprised him. Logan tells Dwayne that he knows he has been having a hard time. He then proceeds to shout at him that they are broke since they dug up every last penny they had for the war, and the servants and knights don't even know that, yet they keep pestering him asking for money. Thus, the administration is having the hardest time ever. Dwayne says that he must have misunderstood Logan all this time, and that he didn't expect him to be so deeply considerate to even think about the administrators. However, Dwayne doesn't finish his sentence, because Logan intervenes and asks if this might be the reason for which he has trouble in bed. And upon hearing this, the poor man remains still as a statue. He charges for the door and wants to leave, but Logan asks him to at least listen to all he has to say, and then proceeds to give him the medicine made in the backyard of his villa. Logan tells Dwayne that it's a patented product from the Philip merchantry in Kale,